Nick. So he's having a glorious evening. Somewhere up on in and around Brisbane, Gold Coast, I believe, somewhere in the parts of Queensland. But Nolan behind the cameras. Once again, that is the famous beach down on Phillip Island. You can see penguins as they make their nightly journey all the way out to the sea down on that lovely strip of beach. But down that lovely strip of pit lane, it's going to be action aplenty. And Ray, time to jump to you for the first time tonight. Times are ridiculously close up and down the field.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be in for a cracker because it's a second separating a high percentage of the field tonight. So with the way these cars are, it will be really tight.
And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, multiple cars in multiple tenths of a second, all stacked up very closely together. Looks like we're going to have around 42 race car drivers out there this evening. And Rick Provenzali, Tyron Bartow, Jesse McMenamin, and Matt Cesole, the few who have not set a time at this point in time. But the top 30 on your screen on the left-hand side of things, 45 seconds left in the session. They need to be coming to that start-finish line, and there's a whole host of cars that are on flying laps at this point in time. It's difficult to get underway. Qualifying sets the tone in terms of 2-hour races, Ray, and I know you love endurance racing, mate, so I'm hearing you're quite keen for tonight's commentary.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be all dependent on how people have set their cars up, because qualifying is one thing, but have you got a race car or have you got a qualifying car? And that's what we're going to find out soon, because there's only, a second and a half between top 27 cars or something along those lines. So it's going to be interesting to see how qualifying goes versus the race.
Yeah, and in terms of his affiliation, ladies and gentlemen that are watching along at home, he is a Frog Leap Juiced racing member. So if you see any Frog Leap Juiced cars out there tonight, you definitely know that Ray is going to be kinder to them. Absolutely not. Ray will be throwing more shade their way than you've ever seen before. In terms of things as they currently stand, Ray, I know you do a lot of driving in the Audi in particular. Comfort level for the Audi at Phillip Island here tonight?
I jumped in with the boys and did some testing earlier, and comfort level is pretty much zero because of the way the aero balance is with it. So the Audi's sort of, if you've got one arm behind your back with this tonight, because it's got a shorter fuel distance, and yeah, just trying to get that aero balance through turn one is going to be awkward, and it's up to Lukey Heights as well. But everyone's going to suffer that, because to get the pace out of it, you've got to get the aero balance right.
Yeah, that's it. It's important to be able to pick up that throttle and let that mid-engine MR cars really allow themselves to rotate through the middle of the corner. Tyres are going to be so critical. They always are at Phillip Island. I can recall a whole host of races that have come down to tyre quality in the dying phase as well. The checkered flag is flying in terms of the qualifying at this point in time. If you're on a lap, you get to finish the lap. But other than that, the standings are going to be locked in. And I can tell you there's 5 cars in the final sector. Other than that, it's all just about done and dusted. And it looks to be that Owen Coleman is going to be the driver at the top of the tree. Couple cars on their run down through the final turns at this point in time. Daniel Birchnell is currently sitting on P2. Ben Jeffrey, P3. Ruku Istra, Leith McClimate, Martin Hallinan, Glenn Arnott, Trent Allen, Jackson Pringle, Nick Bottrell, and Brandon Grosh, your top 11. I went for 10 there and went one too many. Right, that is a Mercedes still on its lap at this point in time. Down in 30th position, I believe, is Stefan Mellis, who will be finishing his final lap at this point in time. And, oh my word, I love that description every time we see it. Belgian DJ producer of techno and old school. Absolutely obsessed by sim racing for the Mercedes driver here tonight, the 32. And it's eyes on and forward to the race. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, our top 3 are 2 Mercedes and a Ferrari. And as we work our way a little bit further down the grid, there's a McLaren in there, which is Ruku Istra, a couple BMWs. But it's all looking like it's going to be the front-engined cars, mainly towards the top end of the field. And that sort of sets the tone, I think. I think that's going to basically say this is exactly what should be happening at Phillip Island too. Wouldn't you agree, Ray?
Yeah, probably, because, I mean, the rear-engine cars or mid-engine cars have got that rotation issue, so the front-engine cars are going to at least keep it square, theoretically, but it's, yeah, it's going to be interesting, and plus the Merc's got that horsepower, so it should be really good off the corners.
And now we'll start to settle ourselves in and look forward to the race. Those are the scenic shots off of, I believe this is the southern coast of Phillip Island itself. It's a very, very beautiful section of the country. Lots of scenic cliff tops, of course. Points towards the most southern points internationally in terms of where it's laid out. There's only a point in Chile that's a little bit further south than this. Other than that, this is as far south in the southern hemisphere that you can really get before you head your way on down to Antarctica. And it's definitely got that cold breeze that our Melburnian residents and Tasmanian residents all love. Sorry, I was thinking of Tasmania when I said Phillip Island. When I said southernmost point of Australia. So you can tell it's already going to be a long night ahead of us, Ray, because we've gone a little bit too far south for Phillip Island.
Yeah, I think you Tasmanians we're going to get a little bit get the old sticks out there on you. But no, it is one place that is rather chilly, but it is one of those best places to be.
How do you feel about the corner name Siberia? Not named because it has any relation in terms of corner layout or anything like that. Similar to Siberia. No, it's named so for the conditions. The icy breeze that whips up over the coast and immediately flows onto Siberia itself. It's cold and an absolute marshal's nightmare to stand down there during race day.
I can confirm it is cold. I've done photography down there, and yeah, had a hole in the jeans, and I can definitely feel that Bass straight air coming up.
How many times have you been down to the track itself, actually, Ray?
I've been over to Phillip Island 2 times for the historic meeting, so it's always good fun to get across for that kind of stuff because it's good fun. And if anyone had a chance, this weekend was their event for that. So save up for next year and go because it's well worth doing it.
I know, 2 minutes left in our warm-up and then we'll move on over to our racing. It's probably time to remind you of everyone of exactly what went down at the previous round. And in terms of qualifying, it was indeed, I believe, a Frog Leaps juiced car that was on top from our previous round at Imola. I believe that was, one of your stablemates. Who was that one?
I'm not actually sure. I thought it was somebody else who was up ahead because I thought our boys had a bad run at Imola. So I'm not. You've lost me on that one.
It was Luke Hay. It was Luke Hay. That's
was it Luke? Yeah, Luke was.
Luke.
Yeah, well, he's one of our boys, I should say.
There you go. Doesn't even know his own team, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a long night in the office for good old Ray. We've got to break him into the commentary booth gently. No, we're not breaking him in gently at all. Matt Skulls, though, dominated the race, ran a really quick, consistent race. Started out of P3, finished on the win. Starting out of 11th spot, though, was Nick Wood. Progressed his way throughout the field very, very strong. A lot of the Riot Sim Racing drivers, so Matt Skulls, Aidan Norris, Jacob Shoes, and a few others, Dean Redette, not in attendance tonight. Want to know why? They're at the V8 Supercars in Newcastle. So big shout out to anyone who is joining us from the Supercars in Newcastle. Hope everything's going well up that way and you're enjoying life. In terms of what we're looking at, though, for tonight's proceedings, 2 hours is the journey. What's the fuel restrictions we're looking at, Ray? Do you have a potential fuel number for us at all?
Well, not really. I know it's just going to be the 3 stops is going to be roughly where it is. So it's probably going to be about 20 laps, 20 laps, and 20 laps, depending on how it goes. And it depends on whether people can actually hit the fuel mark. I mean, I was doing 2.64 litres in the Audi, but I know some of them are doing 2.8. But it's just going to depend on how they drive and if they can fuel save and use the engine maps to do it.
Did you manage to make your way into any of the practice sessions that were available there, or keep an eye on a few people? What was the comments that most drivers were having early on in the piece? Because I know that new tire model, particularly with the new aero model as well, it's changed the GT3 class up completely yet again.
Well, the tire model is actually interesting because we ran it on Friday night in another league that I do, and it was interesting that you could get 2 laps out of it, and then you probably had to cool the tire off, and then you could go again. So it is heat. There's a heat issue to it, but with the way the ABS is, apparently, if you push it too hard in the corners, you are now going to use more of the tire carcass, so you're going to actually have less tire life. But if you're smart, you're going to gain more tire life. So there's some cases where you are probably going to be able to double stint again.
So you're thinking tonight potentially with the tire storm, or as we see the tail end of the warm-up session, we'll move to the gridding phase here. There's potential for some of these guys to start to lose that pace in the tail end of the session if things that they've not really had their mind to it. It's 65% is the fuel distance, like you said, 20 laps. Is that going to be enough to take something away from the tire?
Well, it will, because it depends, because this place is so stressed on the right hand side, so you are going to go through it. It just depends on how well the setup is and how soft it is and how they're actually attacking each corner. If they're going in hard on the brakes, they're just going to stress the carcass.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for round number 2's gridding, and we're going to start ourselves straight off with the Mercedes of Owen Coleman. Takes out the pole on your left-hand side of the screen, that red and black Mercedes. He's on top of the timing tree. Daniel Birchnell lines up alongside of him. We'll throw it back to Ben Jeffrey and Rue Quistra on row number 2. Leith McClimate and Martin Hallinan make up 5th and 6th spots before we move back to the twitchy foot car of Glenn Arnott and Trent Allen off alongside him. Jackson Pringle for Area 51 Cinemasports and Nick Bottrell in the Area 51 Dubby entry. Brandon Grosh is the first of the Frog League Juiced entry cars alongside another Area 51 Cinemasports driver in Adam Jepson. Rounds out your top 12 before we move it back to Nick Wood and other twitchy foot cars alongside of Alfonso Latella, Daniel Mankry and John O'Kiley for 15th and 16th, Chris Pellet and Braden Cooper off of 17th and 18th. Dean Reddit and Luke Hay, after qualifying on pole last time out, finds himself in the 20th. Matt Carrick and Cameron Edwards for Right Sim Racing, and Cam undecided on the terms of teams. Andrew Powell and Jacob Hughes a lot further down in the field than they were last time around. Matthew Gerard for Velocity Sim Labs alongside of Adrian Fresh for Alpine Forum Racing, Jimmy Middleton and Hamish Kelsey, Mark Foster in their famous Lime Milkshake McLaren, and Braden O'Loughlin, Matt Norris and Justin Davies will move back to Christopher Ruddell and Nigel Seidel in 35th and 36th. Before we get all the way down to Daniel Fritz and Dan Bartush, Matt Sisole, Alex Court is actually a pace car driver, Rick Provenzali from the rear of the field, Jesse McMenamin, and Tyrone Beto are your top 43 entries. Reminder, Alex Court is in the safety car, so that will advance Jesse McMenamin one spot on the left-hand side of the grid. 42 cars will take the start. And I'm seeing a lot of Mercedes and BMWs. You think that's just people opting for the safer car because there was one car change allowed as a part of this season?
Yeah, you'll probably find that is the case. It's what you can get the time out of and being safe with it. The problem is that some of these tracks are very, very car specific. So you want to have that car that can do the whole lot and be safe in it. That's the main thing.
Well, known for its safety is actually that Ferrari. I'm surprised we haven't seen more success from that one. The McLaren's been an odd choice for a couple of drivers. It's been a little bit of the odd one out alongside of that Ferrari. There's been a lot more Audis and Lamborghinis than those two, so we'll see how that continues to go on. That's what the field looks like on the run through the hay shed and up to Lukey Heights. Favorite turn on the track, Ray, before we get ourselves to green?
It's probably got to be the entrance through Siberian coming out of it, because if you get it right, you get it right, and 9 times out of 10 you probably don't.
You love a tough technical turn to start things off, Ray. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Virtual Motorsport Mentor and Gamer Gear Direct. This is round number 2 of the Premier Endurance Racing League. Owen Coleman has control of the field as the pace car will file off. We are set to go green for 2 hours of racing around Phillip Island and the GT3 cars. Premier Endurance Racing League, get ready to rumble because we're getting ready to go racing. And now in Owen Coleman's hands, Tyrone Beto has opted to start from the pit lane. Look at them all check up. He's holding them a long way down there straight before they'll finally go green. And he gets a great jump. Someone immediately makes it 3 wide. They're 4 wide before they cross the start-finish line. Now the run down to turn number 1. BMW surging. Those Mercedes is looking really strong in the initial launch, and a couple of Porsches back in the pack. There's an Audi sideways at turn number 1 and trying to grab it up. It's the 225 machine, and he will try and settle himself back in. Nick Bottrell's gone to the tail end of the field and losing a spot early on. I think he's managed to settle himself down is Daniel Birchnell, so I think he's managed to finally get himself in there, but it was Coleman who led us away. Ben Jeffries managed to slot himself into P number 2. And Tyrone Beto is actually not going to make the start of the race. Settle ourselves down through the hairpin for the first time by. 2 wide most of the way through the pack, but already starting to show a clean pair of heels on those cold tyres. He's clearly firing those tyres up incredibly well for Owen Coleman.
Yeah, he's trying to shred him early, so this is going to be interesting to see if he does get the break. But it's always going to be a bit tight going to turn 1, and when people go 3 wide, you're usually going to take a percentage of who's going to go off.
Yeah, difficult to get through the southern loop on that first lap. Now the run down into MG. Who is going to get the drive? Is anyone going to have a crack at Owen Coleman on the run down into turn number 1? Couple cars 2 wide. Daniel Birchnell's right there and sitting pretty at the moment in P3 as well. Deep in the pack. They're all stacked up as they make their way to MG for the first time. And a couple of cars off the tail end of the field, and indeed, Ray, I know you've been excited to see Dean Hunt backwards. Shall I let you get this one out of the way early?
Well, it did say he was going to be mowing the grass at some point, so I think he's almost guaranteed that one already.
Mate, you've got to remind him, he's on the hunt for positions, not the hunt for the grass.
With him, he's just a hunt for anything.
Another Frog Leap Juice entry off at the Southern Loop on lap number 2. Long way around the outside is going to be Luke Hay. Phenomenal performance it was in the early stages of the race at Imola. Not quite this time by. He'll settle himself down into 25th spot. And what a start from Mark Foster, who's picked up a number of spots up on the first lap. And there's a car backwards. I think it's Daniel Fritz who's in trouble. Daniel Fritz it was, and Hamish Kelsey at the tail end of the field. So multiple cars not pointing in the right direction. I can tell you Dean Hunt's getting aggressive already. He's looking to make up spots again. Finds his way past Matthew Gerard, who's the Velocity Sim Labs car immediately in behind him now. 1 lap in the book, another half lap as well, and our leaders are already onto that second lap. Tyres will be settled in now, Ray.
Yeah, here's a lap 1 incident where Roy goes around because he's come across the nose of the others because it's 3 wide, and it's just one of those things you turn in and you hope you've got enough room, but sometimes you don't.
Man, this rejoin is going to be absolutely scary to watch, and then this will be the run for Dean Hunt into MG on the first lap. Down and over Lukey Heights. Big check-up, gets a touch from Mark Foster. I think the whole field was just sort of checking up on the way in there.
Yeah, that's the joys of that area, is if you don't get into it right and don't think that other people are going to slow up, you're just going to always merge.
Whoa! And that is how Luke Hay found himself off the road. It wasn't a turn 2 missed braking attempt. It was actually something that happened at turn 1, and that is why Daniel Fritz was unhappy with what was going on. All credit to whoever it was that made contact with him. They straightened him back out again. Another car off in the background at the Southern Loop. And have a look at this. Mark Foster's going to try and get down the inside of Luke Hay there as well. And I can tell you that'll be Jacob Hughes. This was Right Sim Racing entry and a Lamborghini at that. He's the only Lamborghini of the Right Sim Racing drivers. And Hay down the inside of Foster. Ran him very wide on the entry. Made sure that he had complete and utter domination of the inside line there, Ray.
Yeah, he's coming back through the field like a hot knife through butter. So he's finally getting to gel with the Porsche.
He's making hay whilst the sun shines.
Oh, especially when he's going through the hay shed.
Couldn't resist. Could not resist. All right, down on the run into MG again. He'll grab himself another spot, albeit from a car trying to defend. It's Jimmy Middleton in the green Gamer Gear Direct livery. Drops a whole host of spots. He was running, I think, even around the 20th spot at that point in time. So, yeah, it was. So he's dropped about 10 spots out of that one. And those are just cars with black front ends. That's actually not a hood missing, as I got a little worried it might be. Look at the number of Gamer Gear Direct cars getting through the field at this point in time. Side by side, the two of those, and Right Sim Racing Audi, Dean Reddit behind the wheel. Already making the most of his attempts at starting a lawn mowing business. Another car off as well as Cam Edwards, who has not had a strong showing. You're quite good friends, I believe, with Cam Edwards, aren't you, Ray?
Yeah, Cam and I have known each other for way too many years. And Cam's really just, in the last year and a bit, really got into sim, and he's coming forward.
What would you say is the most embarrassing thing you know about Cam Edwards? Because ultimately, I don't want to hear good banter, I want to hear bad banter. Bad banter is the best.
There's plenty of moments of real-life racing and buckets and spades because he's been in the sandpit.
Cam, I hope you're listening. And
Jono's just been offloaded there, you can see.
Yep. Jono Kiley, a long way out in the weeds, trying to gather that Lamborghini up. Somebody tell him that these things are worth more than he can afford. Whoa, that's a bit of grass there, and he manages to pierce the gap beautifully, albeit the gap to the sand, the grass on the other side of the track.
I think he's trying to set up his own Jim's mowing franchise.
Well, 5 laps in already. That's gone by in just about a heartbeat. And Nick will oh, word. All right, gaps as they stand. Well, our race leader's cleared out to 0.8 of a second at this point in time. Ben Jeffrey's actually starting to set sail after him. So he is managing to stay in the tow, and Braden O'Loughlin, who entered the pit lane on lap number 2, is the car directly ahead of him. So at this point in time, O'Loughlin's got to find some pace, or else that is going to be Owen Coleman making his move very quickly by. And indeed, O'Loughlin is going to yield and run off the track. Meanwhile, the 225 entry is off the track yet again, and O'Loughlin trying to get his way back through there. And it is going to get even worse for Braden O'Loughlin because he has just received himself a drive-through penalty, trying to get his way back onto the track as safely as possible. That is a difficult spot to be off the track there, Ray.
It's definitely not a place I'd like to be in trying to get back in. At least he's done it the right way and done it as sensibly as possible, where some other people would come straight back in at a right angle. So kudos to Braden for that.
Adrian Gresh, what a move to make his way past Daniel Nagri for 14th and 15th. They'll be looking to find their way a little bit further, and indeed on the back of that train of cars just ahead of them. Meanwhile, in the background, keep your eyes on this one because this is the battle for the ages. Matt Carrick defends from Luke Hay, who is really starting to surge forward in that Porsche. He's found the warmth in those tyres, and now it's responding quite well. He's had to defend over there to the left-hand side of the road from Andrew Powell. The Mercedes quite strong in the straight line, but the Porsche will hang on to it for another time through for Luke Hay, and indeed up into the top 20 already. Matt Carrick might just be one for the Wolves here in a few moments' time.
You can definitely see the people now that have had a good tyre set or good setup for the race pace, because there's a big gap forming between a lot of people, and it is just on pure pace.
Yeah, and now...
Whee!
Oh, here we go! Chaos for Luke Hay. Collects the right sim racing car of Matt Carrick on the left-hand side, and Hay has towed it back to the pit lane very, very quickly. I don't know whether that was a tow. That might have just been an ejection as he went over the barrier. It may not have been a lot of choice for that one. We're going to have to see a replay of that because that was a lot that went on very quickly.
That definitely looked like he got ejected into a different postcode.
Yeah. So what went on to trigger that? Oh! That is not a good angle.
Wow. That was not much time there to react for any of those poor guys there.
I was just about to say that might have been our first safety car of the race. Well, yeah, Luke Hay on the pit stop bar down the bottom. Looks very different on that run across. I can tell you our leader has just had contact with Nigel Seidel. And Owen Coleman in trouble on the grass at this point in time, and that looks like a very bent Mercedes. I can tell you, the right front tyre is not pointing in the right direction.
I've got a funny feeling he might go for a tow here.
I don't think he can get out of it.
No, I think she's well and truly buried in the gutter there.
Yeah. So this will tell the story. It was Nigel Seidel was the car we're watching at the moment on the run into the southern loop. And the rear end just comes unstuck for him. And then our leader comes on through. And such is contact made directly on that right front wheel.
Which is never fun through there. Any car that's around, be it whether they're rolling or whether they're stationary, once you're in the groove for that one corner, you are going in that line.
Well, finally going to try and settle ourselves in. I can tell you that it has gone from race lead to race rear. And he's still not on the track. Still not on the track for Owen Coleman. He's surely going to have to tow.
I would have thought he would have towed by now, because he's going to be burning more time not towing, to be truthful.
He cannot turn to the right. He's down at Honda at the moment, and he's stuck there. And that has triggered a tow for Owen Coleman. It would have been in his best interest to trigger a safety car. He sat there and requested a tow, but such is not to be the case. Another car off. It's been a tricky night for a lot of drivers here. And Andrew Powell on the inside of the track. Didn't quite catch that one. Don't think that was a southern loop. No, it's the last corner. And that is a lot of damage to the front of that McLaren.
Yeah, it seems that a lot of people are getting caught out with the tricky conditions today, and that's well and truly way off.
So he was okay. The car looks okay up until this point. Found the inside invisible wall track barrier. That would be why.
It's very easy to do that on the outside to actually drop it there, and once you are there on this grass around Phillip Island, you are just a passenger.
Yeah. Another run down at MG. This will be for Adam Jepson and Chris Pellet. Chris Pellet had a phenomenal duel last time out of Imola, right? What was the chat like amongst your guys after the first round at Imola?
Everybody seemed happy with it. It's just everybody got caught out with their fuel strategy in some cases and just positioning. And it was just one of those things of everybody learning who they're racing with and how they're going to race it. So it's just a learning process once you get into any series. So they were happy, and they've been going forward and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Confidence coming from the car choice, because there was a lot of Audis for your guys. Was it like 5 Audis with the Frog Leap Juice liveries plastered all over them last round? Not so many this time out.
Well, just with the Audis, it's because Kyle and myself had been doing a lot of GT3 stuff, so we'd had a base setup that was pretty okay. So everybody sort of was in the same boat and grabbing it. So now they're going to other areas now that we're finding the advantages not with the Audi, and that's where the changes are happening.
Speaking of the Audi, that is Chris Pellet trying to get down the inside there of Trent Allen in the Camp Quality BMW. Just ahead of him as well, Jackson Pringle had a phenomenal drive through the field last time out, and Owen Coleman's about to re-enter the track, I think, from the pit lane. I think his toe's now finished, so it'll be a few moments away, albeit now down in 39th, and unfortunately for him, he's going to be 2 laps down, I think, to our race leaders, and contact on screen! It's going to be turned around for Chris Pellet. And race not going his way in the opening stages of that one. Contact with, I think it was Adam Jepson, who's now just run up the roads. This is the run through up to Lukey Heights over the crest here. He'll try and get down around the outside. Big check up and just trips over the car in front. And after that, everyone else just passes. So easy to do in these, isn't it, Ray?
It is through there because, I mean, you're trying to carry as much momentum into it, but then if somebody is just a bit earlier or goes to the block, they're so much slower on the apex, and the first person then trips up and the second person just trips up, and then bang, you're into a 4-way bumper-to-bumper Friday night on the freeway.
Tell you what though, how good is the drive from series admin Ricky Provenzali? Started 41st and just about dead last, up to 16th already. Up to 16th, only 24 seconds off the race lead. Found himself a nice hole of clear air at the moment with all the chaos unfolding those first few laps as well. Keep your eyes up towards the top end of the timing charts. Ben Jeffrey is closely followed by Daniel Birchall. Mark Hallinan and Leith McClyman are just about stuck together as well. That is our top 6 cars that just flashed through your screen. And then there's another pack, basically. First to 6th are all together, 7th a little bit out in his own, and then 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, all in 2-car battle packs. So I think are going to be stuck together here this evening. And just with the layout and the way things work around here, Ray, the toe is just quite strong. You see Matt Sisole off the track at this point in time.
Yeah, the toe is pretty strong, but it's a case of who's going to be using their brain and trying to save as much fuel as possible, because this is going to be a fuel race. So if you can get the shorter time in the pits, at least in one stop, you're going to gain advantage.
More chaos going on for Adrian Gretsch as well. Just heard him on the radio apologising. I think it was Afonso Latella, actually, that might have been apologising. Between these two, they are battling away. The run down into turn number 1. Slow car on the right-hand side of your screen. And that was just both drivers apologising to each other, not attempting to block you.
It's amazing how quickly you can run out of road, and it ends up being a bit of an issue. So they did well actually through that with somebody so slow on the outside line, or the main racing line, to be truthful.
It's a car rejoining from the pit lane. It has to be. It is. He's looking for a safe way to get back out onto the track.
Of which there is no real safe way, to be truthful.
Oh, with you, Ray, it's the only safe place is to be not on the track with Ray Oliver.
Oh, the fighting words have already started.
Mate, why do you think I stick to my oval racing, right?
I was going to say that's the only reason why you stick to comms, because you're scared to get out on the track.
That's it, you. I'm taking you down. I'll find a series, I'll join it, and I'll take you down.
You know you're welcome anytime.
Last and second last. However it happens, that's good enough for me.
Any time with you is a good race, and we know that well and truly.
Righto, battle pack continues on screen for Latella, Magri, Jepson, Pellet, I think it is. No, Pellet's not attached there to this battle pack, so it's Jepson and Magri at the tail end, and Correction Latella just in front of these two. Such is the case for most of the entire field. Race lead at the moment, down to 0.4 of a second as well, as Daniel Birchnell starting to close in on Ben Jeffrey. Maybe a little bit better on its tyres on that Ferrari, but tends to get quite taily as the fuel gets lower as well, so something that they all have to keep an eye on. And how's this? The move down the inside, and Honda deep on the brakes for the 225 corporate IT entry. And he will get the job done. No, he won't, because it's going to be taken back by Daniel Magri, so Jepson's still trying to hang on to this one.
He almost timed the block pass perfectly there, but just overshot it.
Got to pull it up in the middle of the corner as well. There's a car stopped on the run down to Honda as well. It's Jacob Hughes. He's stuck. He's absolutely stuck in the grass right there. He's been fired off. Have a look at the tyre tracks. This is off the kink after the southern loop. And that is the hairpin right of shot right now.
That is definitely not somewhere you usually end up.
My word, yeah, he's just come across the it's the same white Ferrari that was there before.
He needed new lotto tickets after that one, far out. That was, yeah, not much reaction time to be able to save it. He's done what he could, but once it goes, it goes.
Just trying to pick up who it was that was out there. Barto, yeah. Which was the same car that we saw, that was the white car. Righto, so that's triggered. The first safety car hits tonight. We didn't see one at Imola. But it is going to be the corporate IT safety car.
This
brought
will
to you
be
by Area 51.
This will be interesting because they're only pretty much a quarter or 2/3 into their stint for the first lot if they want to try and make it a 2-stop race. So this could, or 3-stop race. So this could be interesting.
So a couple cars being waved by the safety car at the moment. And I'll pick up the leader. In fact, the leaders are on their way into pit lane at this point in time. Ben Jeffrey will pit from race lead. And first car to jump on by, I believe, is Daniel Birchnell and Glenn Arnott, both not taking pit stops at this point in time. So the bulk of the lead pack will opt to jump in, but not everyone.
It's just going to be a case now of how long you're out with the safety car and how many minutes you actually get behind the safety car, because this could work, but this could go against a few people having to do a short fill at the end.
I'm really interested to see for our lapped cars, particularly Owen Coleman, who's now 6 laps down, whether or not he can get back to 5 laps down.
You should be able to get a lap back, I would think, but you never know. What's going to be interesting is who takes tyres and who doesn't take tyres, who runs the gauntlet, because there's plenty of time to be saved if you're going to go for a full fuel, because you need at least 40 seconds for the tyre change with the fuel, so you can play it, but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Interesting to see if some people are saving tyres a little bit potentially in hopes something like this might happen. And Ben Jeffrey will rejoin after his pit stop in 7th place at this point in time. So activity in the pit lane early, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting now because it's changed what
Somebody's off the
everybody was
track.
thinking.
So we just heard word that there was someone that was off the track at that point in time. Not 100% sure. So this was the car that was off the track. 95 machine. Jan Bartush, which was, I believe he was already a lap down or very close to going a lap down. Yeah, he was the last car that was on the lead lap. Indeed, at the moment, he is in turn 2. So no, he's not been in pit lane at this point. So they will try and reset the field and gather everyone back up. Reset us and go racing at this point in time. We are, what's that, 1/6 of the way through our race here tonight. And that is going to be very close to cutting a pit stop out of our race as well, Ray. And that's critical when you're thinking about pit stops.
Yeah, I think the happy window was 24 minutes if you're going to come in for the 3 stops is like maximum you can sort of do. So it's going to be interesting because we were looking at about a 20 laps and then coming in for our crew. So it was really looking for a 22 to split the 22 laps for the 30-minute window. So it will be interesting to see where this now affects everyone.
Tell you there was another car that just came back into the pit lane this time by. So wave buys are being done at this point in time, as you can see. Safety car on the right-hand side of screen.
So this will be interesting with the top 3 staying out because they're probably playing for that 30-minute to 35-minute, maybe 40 minutes before they come in. So this will be interesting.
But for all of them, Daniel Birchel's the only one that really had track position. For the rest of them, that's a big jump.
That is a big jump,
well.
but it's also going to depend on tyre life too. If they've crucified their tyres and the other boys start coming back straight through them straight away, it's going to be interesting from that perspective because there's a fair chance that they could be down to probably 80 to 85, maybe to 75% on the tyre life. So it'll be interesting to see how they can handle that.
Yeah, and update, ladies and gentlemen, as well. Wave buys are being done at this point in time. So anyone a lap or more down is being told to pay us as a safety car queue. Grab themselves a lap back, try and put themselves back into the race. And shuffle ourselves through. So Chris Pellet at the moment's moved himself up to 14. Who's made the most moves in any direction? Nick Wood from 13th to 3rd at this point in time, obviously electing not to stop. Adrian Gretsch is up from 26 to 10th. Other than that, 41st to 19th at this point in time for Rick Provenzali. Rick Huistra's got another opportunity here for himself. Obviously, his opening stanza of the race was not as clean as he potentially would have liked. He pit on lap 8, which was about 7 laps ago at this point in time. So electing not to come back online might potentially have been damage on board one of the few McLarens in the field, and he elected to come back down. So it's going to be a Ferrari leading the way when Mercedes controlled the opening stanza of this race. And unfortunately, lap traffic dramas for Owen Coleman has shuffled him multiple laps down. Yeah, we'll go ahead and grab one of our drivers at this point in time. Ray, I'll let you do this interview because it's probably not going to throw Chris Pellet out of things listening to team boss Ray Oliver.
Hey Chris, are you having fun with this tonight so far, or has it been a bit of a nightmare back down there?
It's not been too bad actually. Had a little bit of a nose to tail with a back marker coming down into MG corner, but other than that, the car's been going pretty good. The lap pace is there, so yeah, looking forward to a good night.
How's the balance going through the stint? Was it staying pretty neutral for you, or was it getting a bit tail happy or understeering?
No, the balance was holding pretty true. Obviously around Phillip Island, Doohan Corner and Southern Loop are probably the 2 notorious ones. Last corner can bite you a little bit as well, but no, the car was holding pretty good even in the draft.
Which is good because I mean with the draft you're usually losing a bit of time because or also killing the tyres as well. So if you can stay up with them, at least it gives you a chance to make a pass.
Yeah, exactly. So long as you can keep in touch, there's a couple of good passing manoeuvres around Phillip Island. So definitely down into Honda. So yeah, keeping that balance is good, and yeah, hopefully we can push forward with the pack being bunched up again.
And finally, mate, just before you go, what's your least favourite part about being on a team with Ray?
Oh, just listening to the guy, really.
Okay.
You know, it's just constant, just grating, just like something just pressing down the whole time. Yeah, that's probably the worst.
Who needs enemies when you got friends like that, eh?
That's it,
Best
mate.
of luck,
That's
mate.
it.
Head down. Get ready to get back into that
Thank you very
restart.
much.
Righto, so we are going to get ourselves back into racing here in just a few moments. Field is currently under control of Daniel Birchnell. Green flags in the air. Field under control of the Ferrari driver and jumps out of things nice and early. Chris Pellet deep in the pack looking to try and resurge himself, but the run down to turn number 1. Glenn Arnott will finally get a chance up towards the head of the field. And Nick Wood a long way up there as well in the 308 entry. And the Twitchy Foot cars have moved their way to the head of the field at this point in time. There is chaos in the middle of the pack at this point in time as well. Cars multiple wide on their first run through the southern loop. It is chaos here under a restart. Fuel only stops for a lot of people mean that the tyre wear is going to be just about even. But how is the low fuel pace of our front runners at this point in time? Ben Jeffrey will be keen to get back to the front end of this thing in his Mercedes early on. But it's going to be business as usual as the 3 drivers at the front end manage to maintain their pace at this point in time. Multiple wide through for the first lap through doing corner, and Rook Wistra gets a job done on one car. There's chaos of Siberia, multiple cars sideways. You can see them in the background, and that is Stefan Mellis off the road in the 32 Mercedes. He'll try and rejoin the track at this point in time.
It looks like Hamish just started as well, so that's interesting.
Multiple incidents there on the opening lap. I think this is the ride on board. Cars looking to try and dive their way up. This is the checkups as they make their way down into Doing corner. Gets it nice and tight and tidy there. A little bit of net code, unfortunately, helps that one. And deep from the 225 makes contact with the rear end of the 32 and rotates him around. Some Mellis out and not of his own accord. And a big old wiggle there for the 57 Audi and a long trip to the tyre barrier. He did arrest it.
That's the joys of a twitchy rear end of an Audi.
In terms of things, Ray, it's probably a good opportunity once we settle things down. We'll actually talk, because Ray's got a fair bit of real-life racing experience underneath the belt, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll talk to Ray throughout the piece a little bit about that. But don't forget to let us know out on Facebook and YouTube if there is anyone that you want us to zero in on. Of course, we've had requests for Coleman, Foster, Middleton, and Provenzali, and Mr. Wood as well. So those will be the drivers we'll be grabbing through. But of course, Nick Wood, a phenomenal start to things, albeit grabbing track position with an alternate strategy. And the racing at the top end of town, Nick Wood is the cork in the bottle at the moment for this little battle pack as the Arnott and Birchnell try to gap the rest of the field. Brave call in terms of the strategy to go long on this opening stint. They're going to be mired back in traffic when they do make their pit stops, and another safety car. That could really throw a cat amongst the pigeons.
It's going to be interesting to see how this goes, because this has opened it up. I mean, you've got 3 or 4 people that didn't stop, so if they're running the alternate strategy and they're going for about 45 minutes, then they might get away with a 2-stopper. But it's really going to be a 3 is basically what everyone's looking at, but you could do a 2 if you manage to save enough fuel.
Take a lot of fuel saving. It would have been switched onto the strategy very early on. Glenn Arnott sets a new fastest lap of the race as he has been released. The front end of the field, traffic notwithstanding, that's really helped him to start stretching the legs. And field has continued to shuffle itself around as well. Up and down the field as another move's starting to get made on the run down into the hairpin. And have a look at the GT3 cars just surging on down to the hairpin. Yet again, down the inside, the 700 of Provenzali. That was a move that was telegraphed, and Middleton was letting him on by. That was not contested for Jimmy Middleton. But in terms of endurance racing, it's caution is oftentimes the better part of valor, Ray. It's about how you set yourself up and mentally approach these sorts of things. One lap pace, as you were alluding to during qualifying, it doesn't help you in these longer format races.
You just really want to just get into a nice rhythm and actually just keep ticking the laps away, because you just got to look after everything. I mean, 1 lap's good, but if you're on the limit all the time, you're going to bin it. And if not, you come up to somebody and you're making an adjustment for where they are, and you are off. So you just got to get into that rhythm and just go with it.
Well, drive-through penalty has just been assessed to Nick Bottrell. And he will be making a trip through the lane, which is the one that we saw on that opening lap after the restart as well. 225 entry there on screen, trying to get down the inside of the Porsche at turn 1. Go the long way around at turn number 2 on the Gamer Gear Direct Porsche, and they will settle themselves down in for Davies. Trying to hang on to that one, but here's the battle up a lot further up the road as well between, I believe that was Martin Harlan and Adam Jepson. So it will be now Hallinan that walks away with that one from Adam Jepson, and Gretsch has tagged himself onto these guys here as well.
It was a nice clean pass into to Miller. It was nice, neat and tidy, and both were respectful.
Unlike yourself, Ray, you're not respectful of a driver at all. You're always dive bombing it late, aren't you?
It's the only thing you're meant to do in GT3s, apparently, from what other people have been saying. I think that's the one thing with the GT3s is because everything's so close, a lot of people get to the point where they don't set up the pass, they just throw it in, and that's where some of our accidents have come from over the series is just because it is such a fine balance between all the cars with the BOP.
But I mean, it's completely and utterly different as well. I mean, you talk from a standpoint. Whoa, that's a crazy pit lane entry for Nick Bottrell. Gets it in there to serve his drive-through penalty.
looks like he went looking for some Cape Barron geese.
I think he spotted something on the side on the entry of the pit wall. Must have been somebody must have left a graffiti tag down there. It said Nick Bottrell hit here.
Or it was a penguin.
Penguin might have been a penguin on the side of the building down there. Either way, a scary moment for Nick Bottrell. Drive-through penalty served.
I was going to say it might end up giving him another drive-through, to be honest.
Yeah, it has. It has. So just eyeing off through the entry list within the iRacing server, that will net him an unsafe pit lane entry. So he will have to come back down the pit lane yet again.
Practice makes perfect.
In terms of things at the moment, back up at the head of the field, Birchnell and Arnott have skipped clear to the tune of 2.1 seconds now over Nick Wood, and Ben Jeffries going along with Nick Wood. That's a great try from Ben Jeffries on high fuel as well. So he's just looking to hang on and save some fuel. Rick Wistra continuing to try and get aggressive, gets by Cameron Edwards this lap, and now Ricky Provenzale is going to get boxed in behind these guys. He'll look to try and get aggressive as well. And that BMW will have great drive with the turbocharger on down to turn number 1. So it'll be BMW on BMW, Provenzale on Cameron Edwards. We'll see if they can line each other up and get the run down to turn number 1. Chris Pellet starting to come under a little bit of pressure here as well from Alfonso Latella. Here comes Latella, great drive through turn number 1. Pellet had to cover on the run of turn number 2, trying to shove the nose down and in there from Alfonso Latella. Gets right to the rear bumper now of Pellet, and great drive off the corner. That's the real strength of the Audi coming into play right there, but here comes that quick BMW. Now it's got a riot Audi crawling all over its rear wing. It's Dean Reddit, and here comes Ruku Istra to the outside at turn number 4. Gets a long way in there and off the road for Ruku Istra. It was deep on lap number 1 at turn number 1. Tried to turn across someone's nose. Now he makes his second trip to the grass.
Some might say he was looking for a lawn mowing contract, but no, he did the right thing there. He didn't cut down, he just rode it out. So these things happen, and that was a very deep pass there.
Well, that's aggressiveness there from Ben Jeffries getting his way on by the 20-foot racing entry of Nick Wood. He had to get on with things if he wanted to start setting the tempo, and now he'll look to escape the clutches, and that should set him aside in terms of not only race pace, but pit lane strategy now for Ben Jeffries. But here comes that lower fuel BMW. What's it got for the Mercedes in leg down the front straight? Not quite able to make a whole lot of ground there. So that says that Nick Wood might be running a touch more wing than the Mercedes of Ben Jeffries.
Is that, or he's running fuel map 3 to make sure he's got the fuel to make it a 2-stopper, which wouldn't be surprising because he didn't pit, so that could be the card he's playing.
In which case he'll need to stay attached. Now continuing on this battle is Latella, finally gets the job done down at the southern loop on Pellet. Now Pellet's starting to get lined up by Dean Reddit. What may be one for Chris Pellet in terms of going backwards, but that thing is really trimmed out in terms of the Audi there. Although Dean Reddit could be fuel saving. Now he'll get his way back down the inside of Latella. And Latella runs it wide. He'll have the inside on the run down to Siberia. Who's going to be late braking on down to the coldest portion of the Phillip Island circuit? And it's going to be the fight back now. Pellet's still going to hang it around in there. And Alfonso Latella will have the outside through the Haitian. It'll become the inside at Lukey Heights. Yields the position. And Chris Pellet grabs one back. Happy for the driving there from the man we just spoke to a few moments ago under safety car conditions. Starting to get the elbows out there, Ray.
He definitely was using the advantage of the Audi with the power off, but it was good to see both of them were able to go side by side with no contact, which is a good sight to see.
And Rukuistra now missing the luggage compartment cover there on that McLaren. Out of control, got down very, very deep over Lukey Heights, and this is a wild ride down into MG.
It looks like he went in and lost a bit of aero and didn't realise how much slower the car ahead was. And once you get off the gas through there, it's gonna rotate on you. But in his case, he got the understeer because he steered out of it. And then good night, nurse.
I believe this is going to be another incident as well for John Kiley. Yeah, just the rear end of that Lamborghini comes unstuck. And now Chris Pellet and Alfonso Latella's duel continues. They were the opposite way around on the last run through the same corners on last lap. Now on the outside of Siberia, just about clears it is Chris Pellet. And trying to get the ponies down to the floor from Mr. Latella. Doesn't quite hang on to that one. And Dean Reddit might just break out the popcorn and a hot dog. Whoa, wild ride on the run to Lukey Heights. How does he resurface on the track? Gathers it all back up. A wild and woolly ride for Alfonso Latella, but he lives to tell the tale when so many others have not.
I think that was more luck than anything else.
My word, what a run through there, Ray. Just offline, just a fraction offline.
Yeah, just a fraction offline. He grabbed the curb on the inside, which is what unsettled him because he came across too far, and that was enough to then kick it out because it wasn't stable. And then I think Cameron has come through afterwards as he's trying to save it and just tagged him in the back coming into Lukey.
It's so difficult from a trailing driver because you can't, the car's overloaded at that point. You cannot apply any more brake and you go straight on and you miss the corner and you're off at Lukey Heights as well.
Well, the thing is, around here, the grass is like it's wet grass in real life. It just accelerates you. So once you're in a moment, it's very hard to stop it without it going back across and spear tackling somebody.
Yep, and now the battle down here in the higher placings at the moment. Martin Hallinan, Brandon Grosh and Adam Jepson in a three-car battle pack for the ages. How's the drive from Leith McClimate? One spot ahead of these guys as well. Did not have a great showing at Imola, but all of a sudden this new package of car in the Virtual Motorsport Mentor Mercedes really suiting Leith McClimate's car right here.
He's doing really well tonight. He's got in the flow and he's just kept going forward, which is what you want to be doing.
He's qualified 5th, currently in 5th, 2nd on corrected fuel strategy. And finally, that battle pack a little bit behind will resolve itself. Hallinan will come away with the spot, followed by Jepson and Grosh. Grosh just running wide on the second last corner. The run at turn number 12 and the run down the main straight. Now it's a ton of pain on the run at turn number 1. This time out, Ray, all of your boys going in different directions. Obviously for Imola, teamwork makes the dream work. Whoa, there's a car around at turn number 2. We'll see in just a few moments. It was that Lamborghini again. 78, unfortunately. And Brandon Grosh also off the road yet again. So I was just about to say, previously, so Lamborghini wide at turn number 1? No, just rear rotating deep into turn number 2. And the rear just rotating on him midway through the corner.
Yeah, he's run out of real estate. He's going way too deep in the corner, and I think Brandon might have done the same thing.
Is that just curving? He's picked up on the inside?
Nah, once you get out that far, if you're just out of the dark grey, it starts to not like it because of the way the loading is. So with the way the aero balance is if you haven't got it square enough, it's going to turn on you.
Oh, and there's a McLaren running off the road, the 43 entry for Andrew Powell. Keeps it out of the barriers, keeps it out of the sand trap, and manages to make it all the way back on. And Rukuistra's night goes from bad to worse. I have a feeling that car has already been down through the pits for use of a fast repair. So this will be the run down to the hairpin. And continuing to enter way too deep for the 252.
And then they both have a sympathy speed.
Oh, here we go. Pit stops on their way through 40 minutes in the race. Not quite far enough. You were saying about 45, Ray. You need to get in. So a little bit of fuel saving in these next 2 stints if you can really extend it. Potentially make it home on that 2-stop, but that's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but here's the thing is these guys might be on the 3-stop. The others might have to go 4 because they might not have enough fuel now, so they've got to do a splash and dash.
But that final pit stop, it's going to be so short, and that's the difference.
It is, but if we've got no safety cars, then they're going to have to come in. So you're losing the transit time down the lane, which is going to be very, very important.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on our effective race strategies at this point. A few Porsches in the field down the inside of the hairpin, and Jacob Hughes continues to battle on with, I want to say Bryden Cooper. Indeed it is. Bryden Cooper gets down the inside of the hairpin, just trying to shut the door from the right sim racing driver. And he will get the job done for now, Jacob Hughes, but he is defending like his life depends upon it in that Lamborghini, and now he's making use of all of the track width and a bit more. And those tyres are going to be trouble for the next few laps. Glenn Arnott and Nick Wood now make their way down pit lane as well. So all the drivers that failed to stop under the safety car now making their respective pit lane strategies known.
So you're at least seeing there the BMW's at least carried 1 extra lap. Ooh, this is not good. Jacob
Jimmy
Hughes.
Middleton's just been in the pits as well. Jacob Hughes was around, and Cooper. This is this battle that's continued on after that Lamborghini had a huge moment right out of Siberia. Now down into MG, and the Mercedes sensed an opportunity.
I think that was the case of let's go for it, and it was never really on, to be truthful. It's one of those things, but once you're in the brakes and at that point, you're a passenger.
You pointed out the corner. There's nothing more you can do. The car is so loaded up at that point in time. Just with a view from the trailing drivers making their way on into this one.
And that's where I was saying earlier is that the margin's so small to make some of these passes that it breeds accidents in some cases.
Would it be better in some cases, Ray, to potentially try and save the fuel and go that extra few laps? Use that mind, you know, it's a 2-hour race. Yeah, we're not even halfway yet, you know?
Well, I think what's really probably changed the mindset of people is that there was actually a safety car. If you didn't have the safety car, everybody would definitely be going for the three stoppers, and you would have had some going for the 2. But now that you've had the safety car, it really does bring the 2 stoppers in, whether they can do it or not. So it is going to be interesting, but they're going to have to fuel save and use their maps to be able to do it.
How interesting is this? It's just about a full lap, the pit stop length, from the way in to the way out in terms of things, because Ben Jeffrey has come on through. He was a little bit behind Daniel Birchnell, who was your race leader prior to that round of pit stops. They've come out just... Daniel Birchnell's just in behind. He's in between P1 and P2, so he's just ahead of Leith McClymonds.
Which is going to make it interesting, because if there is a safety car and that happens, it will make it a bit awkward for some people if people stay out. You will get the wave around, but you'll get blocked by it, so it will be interesting in that perspective.
And now Gresh is starting to get the aggression on, and Trent Allen's in there and amongst this one as well. Jepson, I believe, is going to come away with the spot, and Gresh will just sit there and bide his time a little bit. Oh, car backwards yet again. Who's this one? Braden O'Loughlin not having a great night at the office. I think all of your drivers, Ray, have had a terrible night here, and they'll be saying, can we keep Ray out of the commentary booth in future?
I was going to say, I think I'm the jinx, but some of the things that have been happening to them have definitely not been their fault.
Well, that's it, Ray. They wouldn't have happened if you weren't sitting here in the commentary booth. That's the difference.
Yeah, but who would be keeping you company and keeping you in line?
Nolan would be. He's behind the cameras.
He'd probably get up and leave and go back and stay in Canada.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Oh, 45 minutes into this race now, so we are a fair chunk of the way through. just trying to do the math, and my brain just went, no, we're done now. We've had enough, thank you.
You try and take your shoes off so you can.
3/8 of the way through the race. we got there. At this point in time, Ben Jeffrey leads it from Leith McClimate. Daniel Birch, be interesting to see how the tyres actually go from Birchnell in this gap as well. So this will be quite critical for his race strategy, because he can get back past Ben Jeffrey and clear him. There is a bit of clear track ahead, so a good opportunity for him as well. Adam Jepson is there on screen at P3. Martin Hallinn's going with him, and then there's Gresh, Allen, Pringle, Magri, Brennan Grosh. Chris Pellet rounds out your top 10 at this point in time. Dean Reddit just outside your top 10, and Ricky Provenzali as well. They're right in and a part of that battle pack, and that's the one that's just now on screen as Reddit starting to get closed in on by Ricky Provenzali. So Provenzali will have a go here, potentially now to turn number 1. Reddit under fire from the BMW.
I think that'd be a little bit of a lift there, because he was definitely reeling him in.
And now Provenzali's sitting there in at the toe. He'll look to show the nose down here at turn number 1. Oh, wiggle for Reddit! Reddit goes round onto the right-hand side, and heavy contact with the tyre barrier, and a very messed up rear wing for the Riot Sim Racing driver of the 303. Just over-rotated on the exit of turn number 1.
Yeah, once he got that bubble going, that was it, and the rest was history.
Now they're running in the hairpin as well, continuing the action. These guys are just continuing to go toe-to-toe. Gresh will hang on to this one from... Sorry, Trent Allen will grab this one from Adrian Gresh. Pringle and Magri all are part of this battle pack at this point in time.
Thing is, they keep fighting each other, and the gap to the leaders keeps going out. It's if they keep doing that, they're going to be losing a lot more time soon. And you can see the bigger guys behind catching up rapidly, so you can see it's a talk in the bottle scenario.
Just about to say is that's Chris Pellet and Ricky Provenzali now have brought themselves onto the tail end of this battle pack. So either they're going to settle it down, somebody's got to say I'm going to save some fuel, or the faster driver among them has got to get ahead and manage to hang on to that one for a lap. Here comes Gresh once again. Trent Allen not long for the lead of this pack. Does he stay in behind him? Here comes the driver of the 63 machine to the inside. Gonna show the nose at turn number 1. Hangs onto it this time by it as Trent Allen. What a late surge through the field. And here comes Pringle at the rear bumper now of Adrian Gresh. So drama continues in this battle pack. And an update on Daniel Birchnell's race pace as well on that fresh rubber. He has closed the gap down to race leader Ben Jeffrey. So he'll be looking to try and grab that lap back as soon as he possibly can.
This will be interesting to see how this goes, because technically he doesn't have to let him pass, but if I was the leader, I would probably let him pass and sit behind him. Just
save some fuel.
Use the toe and save the fuel, as you say, yeah, because you can work it in your favour.
And they don't want to fight this too much, because just remember, just through the rear view mirror is Leith McClimate. He will just be watching along at this going, I don't want to be in Ben Jeffrey's shoes. Do you just let it happen, though, as a race leader? Because Daniel Birchnell has shown he's got the pace to be up here. Whoa! And the drama's kicked off in that battle pack. We took our eyes off it for just a few moments to talk about race strategy. And around goes Gresh. So it's already happened at this point in time, and it looks like the 11 was the key factor in that one, which was Pringle. Yeah, Pringle's going to send it deep and rotate Gresh.
That was definitely never going to end up in any other result than that, to be honest.
It's so tricky to get down the inside there at the end of Lukey. Both drivers have to be on with it.
Well, and that's the thing, is both drivers have to be looking out for each other. I mean, you are going to send it, but you don't want to cut somebody down if you know somebody's going to be there, but you also don't want to have somebody absolutely just dive bomb you. So both have to be helping each other instead of just one-on-one, so to speak. So sometimes you can get out of them, sometimes you can't, and sometimes it happens because of where you are.
And that one will continue to be a drama. Race Control's now got the decision of how they're going to handle it. But that gives Dean Reddit somebody to race alongside. And here comes Rukuistra. He's missing the cover for the luggage tray, but it has not affected his race speed. He's still continuing to be competitive with Jacob Hughes back at the tail end of the 20. I tell you what, Daniel Birchnell is going to get a position away from Matt Cesole and continuing to close in on our leader as well. So that margin is starting to become quite tricky for our race leaders. There's another car off the road as well in 26, which I believe is Nick Wood. So that says to me Daniel Birchnell had a very long stop. Indeed, Daniel Birchnell actually has had a very long stop. I think he's had a speeding on pit lane penalty. This is Wood rotating the car through Siberia. So that actually explains why Birchnell's in and amongst our leaders. I looked at a minute and 28 seconds to transit the pit lane and went, that's a touch too long. And that would be why. That's another car trying to get their way into the pit lane and finding the invisible wall down there.
That seems to be everybody's little hotspot at the moment.
That's the tricky part of both ABS and traction control there as well, Ray.
Yeah, that last corner, if you don't get it right and take the wide line coming into it, you can easily rotate it because of the steering angle and because of the way the aero is. And also, if you go wide, once you're on the grass, it just wants to turn you, and you're a passenger once that happens.
Well, I want to say the critical thing that's actually caused that incident is actually he was on the brakes. The brake lights were all lit up whilst he was off on the grass. You don't want to touch the brakes unless you're going perfectly straight, and all four are in the grass.
Yeah, and I've done that around here with the TCR where I've come out and done exactly the same thing, but managed to aim for the flaggy post and come back out in the middle of the field. But it's one of those things that once you are on the brakes, you are just a passenger through there. So it was rotating enough to be 45 degrees to the track, so it was always going to go for the invisible wall.
Well, expert comments from Ray Oliver. Frogleap Juiced racing driver will analyse his teammates' incidents in full. Was that Dean Hunt as well that did that one? It was Mercedes. Is Dean in the Mercedes here tonight?
Dean's in the Merc, and one of the other, I think Riddell's in the Merc as well.
It was the 22, I know that much.
I think it was Chris.
It was Brennan Grosch. Oh, wasn't Grosch's in the BMW? Yeah. All right. Look, I'll let you be the expert on your teammates. I'll stick to commentary duties. It's
funny. I was like jumped in today and was like, which car's who in what, and they're just like, we're in all different cars. I'm like, oh, there we go.
Well, that was one of the questions that was on my lips. I mean, the previous round, like we were talking about, obviously everyone in the Audi, it's nice and easy to work together, and you've got multiple drivers all working together. Was there much working together for Imola? Because there was a lot of time to prepare for that round as well. There's only 2 weeks of a gap from Imola here to Phillip Island.
Yeah, the boys were helping each other a lot with Imola because they were all in the same area, so the setups were pretty much the same. However, this week it was a case of everybody was having the same sort of issues, and the changes are pretty much the same between the cars, but it's still finding the balance. But it's a guesstimate and understanding how each other drive, because each of these, well, we got one going on, which is Daniel Magri.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a case of just making sure that everybody's feeling comfortable, and a lot of the boys were struggling with the aero balance because of the way turn one is and coming in the last 2 turns. So it was just getting everybody comfortable.
And finally managing to settle itself down and get into a little bit of a rhythm as we finally come up in the hour mark. Boy, that's gone quickly. A lot quicker than I thought. Remember, Ray was saying 2020 is what you're looking for in terms of fuel stints. We're now at lap 36. So...
Well, that's originally what we thought, because we had a time window that we thought we were going to be doing, but these boys' pace is actually higher than was predicted, so you're actually looking at about 22 laps per stint if you were going to do the triple.
So we're still looking at that stop number. The other problem the other factor that's of concern is that first pit stop was actually at 13 laps in. So that means we're looking at any time about now for our pit stops. So fuel windows would be starting to run dry. Was it 26 laps? 26, 27 laps for most of the field that did pit. So I had 13 laps on top of that. We're looking about, what, lap 39?
Yeah, and then give or take the fuel save that was behind the safety car as well, so it's going to be a little bit longer. But you're going to have a window probably to come in on the hour, I would say.
Would you want to be the first kind of blink here, Ray? Because you'd have a shorter pit stop, but at the same time, you get yourself out in a little bit of free air, a little bit of opportunity to warm those tyres up and go for it, and perform the undercut. Or do you think it's just too early in the race to be looking to undercut and potentially throwing the strategy at risk as we watch the 43 of Powell run wide at the Southern Loop again?
It just depends on how your car's reacting to the fuel load. I mean, some people are going to have a better run with the heavier load than the lower load, so that's dependent on it as well. And if you can try and squeeze it out to be 2 more stops only, then go for it. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, because it depends on when they come in to how the next hour is going to be.
And Wood was the furthest of our entire group that ran in that first session, which was 27 laps, a bit with a few pace laps. So we're coming up on that distance at the moment. We're 3 or 4 laps away at the moment. Matthew Norris has made his way into pit lane. I don't know whether or not that's a scheduled stop or whether that is for damage at this point in time. He's tumbling down the order. He's actually exiting pit lane at this point in time. So that might signal the first of our first few rounds of pit stops. Tyres would theoretically be on the menu. We heard from a few drivers they wish they'd taken tyres at different stops all night long. At Imola, could tyre strategy be of some concern here? Now, Ray, in terms of things, we were saying previously it was taking a few laps for those tyres to actually come up to temperature. New tyre model, new aero model yet again. Is it firing off nice and quickly now, or are they taking a few laps to come up to temperature? Is it worthwhile sacrificing 3 or 4 seconds in terms of lost time to try and bring a new set of tyres in every stint?
Well, with the Audi around the A1 ring or Red Bull ring last Friday, it was 3 laps. So it just depends. Each car's going to be different, but you also don't want to stress the carcass too early, because if you do, you're going to get 3 or 4 laps that are going to be fast, and then it's going to drop off, and then you're going to have to look after the tyres and then go again. It's the consistency side you're going to be looking at more than the outright attack speed.
Well, I was also going to say not only the tyre consistency and how looking after the carcass of the tyre, but the instability of the cars on cold tyres. They are so much more of a tricky beast to drive around with the new model. Yeah,
and turn 2, when you come out of the pits on cold tyres, there's always a leap in the unknown, because you don't know whether the rear is going to snap or you're going to get understeer. And as you see here, Trent's probably the first one to blink.
Yeah, Trent Allen's going to come down to the attention of his crew. And that is Braden O'Loughlin making his way up. Trent went up on the jack, so that says tyre stop incoming. So we for at least one fresh tyre. Between 1 and 4 fresh tyres.
If you got 45 seconds worth of fuel you're putting in, you can guarantee you're going to cover the tyre stop now that the tyres are in the same window as the fuel.
And Jacob Hughes and Lamborghini for Right Sim Racing is going to make his trundle down the pit lane as well. Here we go. Jackson Pringle's been handed a drive-through penalty, which I think we all had a feeling was coming in the 11 car for the incident with was Adrian Gresh. He's continued to tumble down the order, by the way. He's now been passed by Jesse McMenamin. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And don't forget, Daniel Birchnell is one of the drivers who's already completed his stop. Nick Wood has come out ahead of Trent Allen just as Trent Allen will be trying to bring those tyres up to temperature now. And here comes the queue into the pit lane. Ben Jeffries, Leith McClymont, Adam Jepson, Martin Hallinan. Grosh is in as well. It'll be interesting to see whether Provenzali goes an extra lap. Indeed, Provenzali's gone again, as well as Chris Bellin in behind him. So here comes the differences in strategies. Jackson Pringle also has a penalty to serve, so he may be fuel compromised this lap, or he may just continue on through the pin up. So he's going to come into his pit stop. Perform his stop, he's going to have to go out and come back in straight away. And cars in pit lane that missed their stops there, right? Somebody said in the background, somebody missed their stall. Ben Jeffries it was that missed his pit box. And indeed, he's lost track position.
And that's the thing that's going to be crucial around here is making sure you keep your track position. Any small mistake is going to be costly.
So he's lost 2 spots here as Ben Jeffrey to Leith McClimate and Adam Jepson. They are going to come back out ahead of Glenn Arnott at this point in time, who pit on lap 27. Arnott's only going to be just in behind these guys at this point in time. Just trying to pick up the drivers that did do their stops earlier on. So Glenn Arnott was the leader of those. I think Nick Wood was the next driver that did stay out under our safety car. And that is the pit strategies as we've seen them thus far. Dean Hunt elected to stop under that safety car, but he also took a splash earlier on. So his pit stop under the safety car was quite quick. And how's this for Leith McClimate? He now leads the effective fuel strategy race. Provenzali's going to continue another lap, and he will get past the hour mark. An hour and 2 minutes, as does Chris Pellett. Alfonso Latella's gone through the final turn now, and I believe he's onto the pit straight. So Latella's going to go an extra lap. 4th place is McMenamin. He's just shuffled himself in. And so is Cam Edwards. Dean Hunt will be the next driver we're looking for, so he's in. So it is 2 cars that continue to circulate at this point in time, which is Provenzali and Alfonso Latella, who will lead the race at this point in time. They have 20 seconds back from Latella to Leith McClimate. So 32 seconds is the gap from Ricky Provenzali back. But I think that locks this one in, Ray.
Yeah, it's going to make it one more stop.
Yeah.
It's probably just one more stop depending on how this goes, because the distance is 26 laps. So you're looking at 30 plus minutes per stint. So one more stop is what it's going to take, and a little bit of fuel saving, and you should be done.
And Provenzali makes his way down the lapped car, Bryden Cooper, who took his pit stop a good 10 laps or so ago. Now Jacob Hughes in the Lamborghini is going to crawl all over him, but differing strategies at this point in time. Something's just happened to Trent Allen. He's just on the radio apologising to, I think it was Daniel Magri at that point in time. So something's just happened, and now Provenzali will come to the attention. His pit crew with 56 and 20 seconds left. Huge drift through turn number 1.
That's the cold tyres.
Well, can somebody tell Trent Allen that the drift competition was last week?
It's actually a good save he had there, to be honest.
I could have ended absolutely in disaster, as we saw for Dean Reddit earlier on in the piece. And another car off. I believe that's the 225 again. Indeed it is. So the Teller and Provenzali both into the lane this time by. Leith McClimate will assume the race lead. Leaders have just gone thundering down the main straight. I think starting to come out of his box is Latella. Glenn Arnott's gone through as well. So where will both of these drivers rejoin? There's Provenzali. He's back out onto the track at this point in time. He will be P6, and Latella is making his way out. And I think that's Pringle coming down to serve his penalty at this point in time. So a slow drive through the pit lane for Jackson Pringle. Had a good start last time out at Imola, and not a great race here from him tonight as well. But that pit stop shuffled the order a little bit. Chris Pellett will come out behind Ricky Provenzali. He's made a few spots up in that pit cycle, albeit cold tyres now will be his biggest deal for both himself and Provenzali. And indeed, Pellett has just been overtaken, I believe, by Grosh. So Trent Allen will have the warmest tyres of this little group. And he's only just in behind them and closing on Pellett at a rate of knots.
What's going to be interesting now is once all this rest of this fuel cycle goes, is those guys that did the first stop, how long they actually stay out for.
Well, they're going to have to do 2 stops as well, so
It could have gone against them, but it depends on when the stop is, because now you're looking at probably one more stop for the rest. So they might have to take 2, they might have to take 1, it depends on their fuel save.
Have to see how deep it's Glenn Arnott and Nick Wood we've got our eyes peeled for at this point in time. Ben Jeffries had to serve. It was either an unsafe pit lane entry or speeding in pit lane. That was the issue for Ben Jeffries. Spent a very, very long time in pit lane. Stefan Mellis, I think, has just had an incident at turn number 4. Yep, that's him. All the way out in the weeds. Trying to let a car go. Whoa! Somebody got a wake-up call.
Somebody want to tell him the corner goes the other way?
Well, they say, Ray, to be quick, you've got to use all of the track, but I think...
Well, there probably was a bit of a rally-esque attempted Scandinavian flick in there, but I don't think he nailed it.
No, it's quite difficult to do those rally techniques when you've got ABS and traction control trying to prevent you from doing so at every turn.
This is true.
But like I was saying, they say to be quick, you've got to use all the track that's available to you. You pay for the whole thing, you may as well use the whole damn thing, but that was all of that and a bit more from Stefan Meritz.
And sometimes as drivers, we all get a little bit too greedy.
Sorry, Stefan Mellis. And the 32, not having a great night, a long way down there. Now, I'd be interested to have a quick chat if we can. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab one of my Riot Sim Racing boys and have a chat with him. If I find the right room. Mr. Hughes, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, mate, not very good, as you can see.
Now, mate, I heard you were quite good at drifting, but you've been using the rear wheels of that Lamborghini as you're going toe-to-toe here with Bryden
mate.
Cooper.
Yeah, I was only just talking about it a minute ago. I was just like, what have they done in the update? Because I haven't done any practice since the last update, and to me, the car just feels a little bit off.
I thought it was the driver that was a little off, but
honestly,
I guess the driver hasn't changed.
I think it's a good combination of both. Mainly me, but...
In terms of things, normally you're used to getting around a track like this with a little bit more horsepower, a little bit less downforce.
Oh, yeah.
Phillip Island, how's it treating the GT3 package here tonight? And is potentially the Lamborghini going to get shelled for the rest of the season?
Nah, I'm gonna stick with the Lamborghini through and through. Yeah, it's a hard one to... it's a hard one to get a hold of, but I don't know. There's not many around here, so I want to kind of stick to it and be the sole survivor.
Now, I know that the biggest reason for selecting a car coming out of Riot Sim Racing is actually the engine sound. And Lamborghini and Audi, they drive quite similarly, but that Lamborghini is just that little bit of extra in terms of the engine noise that I believe our fans at home are being listening to.
Yeah.
Was that the reason for the choice?
It's the pops and crackles that do it for me. And they're actually different now since the update. They've actually updated the sound effects for the pops and crackles, so it was a really good sounding car. Now it's probably the best sounding car.
All right, well, I'm going to have to dive myself into a Lamborghini after this race, mate. We'll let you get back into it and make sure that you give Bryden Cooper a good old dive bomb at some point during the next 5 laps or so, of course, yeah?
Yeah, no worries. I'll just keep on struggling.
Good luck, mate. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Righto, so dialing in some of our drivers, and now it's going to be Leith McClimate and Adam Jepson that are going to go toe-to-toe, and there is Ben Jeffrey in behind them as well. So Jeffrey, who had control of this race, albeit before missing his pit lane, still sliding through that one, he's now going to be relegated to watching the battle for the race lead. Just over an hour and 10 minutes into the Game of Gear Direct Premier Endurance League from Phillip Island, round number 2. One drop round available through all drivers of this series. A few drivers not in attendance because they're currently enjoying the V8 supercars from Phillip Island. And look how close now. Adam Jepson got to the rear end of that car, destabilized the BMW, and he's gone from fighting for the lead to 3rd place for Adam Jepson, and Ben Jeffrey makes that one count. And there's Martin Allen that's going to buy himself into the picture. So the top 4 cars separated by about 2.5 seconds from 1st to 4th. At this point in time. So racing's starting to heat up at the midway mark of this one, and it's now time to start turning your eyes for home rate. How will the drivers be adjusting themselves in this second hour?
I think now they're just trying to box themselves into a good position so they can try and figure out where they're at, because they all seem to be attacking that top 4 group, but they are right on each other. So if they're going full beans to the end, then they're going to have to keep fighting. But I think some of the other boys a bit further down are still trying to go into fuel save mode.
Oh, in trouble here for Matt Gerard. It's not been a great night in the Velocity Sim Sports BMW. And now down the inside goes Daniel Birchnell, and Cam Edwards gets the job done after serving his pit lane speeding infringement. And just too deep in, the rear end of the BMW not satisfied with the grip that was available to it. And continues on as Daniel Birchnell. Job done there for him. Reasonable move, that one too, from Birchnell, but he'll be on low fuel at this point in time, right? He'll be looking to make some time up.
Yeah, and he seems to be cutting through nicely and giving plenty of room, and Cam gave him plenty of room as well, so they both got through scot-free. So that's what you want to see in racing, and you want to see it neat and tidy. But he's definitely pulled away from Cam in those last few corners, so he's got the fire lit under him again, so I reckon he'll get his way back up into the top 10, I'd say.
Touch over 45 minutes left here for Gamer Gear Direct's Premier Endurance Racing League, and the battle on screen between Cam Edwards and Dean Reddit. And two more cars just in behind these guys, Dean Hunt, Jackson Pringle, and then Adrian Gretsch all in there and amongst the battle as well. But up at the pointy end of town, top four covered by next to nothing. At this point in time, would you have a preferred spot to be in? Do you want to just sit back and maybe watch a little bit of this if you're Martin Cullen?
It's one of those things of, depends on how comfortable you are. Some people are more comfortable with following and some can lead. So it just depends on where you want to be. But if you're at the back with Helen, then you can probably save fuel as long as Jepson doesn't lose the gap to him.
And if you're Ben Jeffries, how aggressive are you going to be seeing this horde of lapped cars just up the road as well? That'll be quite critical for getting the job done. Five cars in 3 or 4 seconds here, Ray.
Traffic's always going to be your problem around here. I mean, there's easy ways to pass, but there's no easy way to pass, because if you get them at the wrong point in the corner, then it is always going to back you up and you're going to lose a few tenths here and there. So you can easily pick your pass if you're second, but it doesn't always go your way.
Leaf McClimate now starting to come under pressure from Jeffries, and you can see how close that Mercedes of Jeffries starting to get the race leader. Leaf McClimate doing a phenomenal job here at the moment, the 317 driver. We'll see if Jeffries is going to be able to shake up and invert this order. Great drive there, though, for Leaf McClimate coming off of Siberia's extended a few more legs away from P number 2, and now that lap traffic is thick and heavy immediately in front of them as they come through Lukey Heights. This time going to dive on down the inside, trying to clear the lap cars as best as they possibly can. 93's done his best to get out of the way, but now your top four are all there in the one shot just about. And here comes the Jeffries Mercedes. Huge run off of turn number 11 as they'll turn out of the last corner. Now he'll get the toe down the main straight. McClimate looking to get a little bit of a draft from the car just ahead of him as well. But here comes Ben Jeffries. And he'll settle himself down into P number 2 on the run through turn number 1.
He'll probably set himself up for a pass into Miller Corner if he can, because he seems to be a lot stronger on the brakes, but his drive out with the way the setup is seems to be worse off than what Leaf is. So we're seeing two different attacks of the way to drive him, and it's creating some good racing.
Yeah, here it comes, and down the inside now from Adam Jepson. Gets it deep down into the hairpin. He'll get alongside, and Hallidan's in there as well. Lapped car, and they get rotated. Contact between Jepson and Ben Jeffrey. Martin Hallidan will accept P number 3, and there goes Glenn Arnott, who'll slow himself down to P number 4 as well. And Leaf McClimate accepts the lead of the race.
Definitely was a bit of a dive bomb, but it was clean at that point. It's just the exit, and you can see that Thingo's come across his nose with the way the back marker is, trying to pass the back marker and not get held up. So I think race control's going to have an interesting time with that one.
That nearly looks like it might just be called a racing deal. It looks like they've both sort of moved towards each other.
Yeah, I think it was a case of multiple trajectories turning in the same spot, trying to do the right thing. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for race control.
Well, we'll leave it to 24/7 Sim Services Race Control to hand down their adjudication on that one. And the lapped car was Matt Sisole. He was a part of that one in the green BMW. But at the moment, it's going to be Adam Jepson who gets himself into P2 with a big question mark hanging over his head. Now, if he's sitting in this position from Jepson, well, he's run off the circuit. I was about to say, do you just hand the spot back to Ben Jeffrey and go back racing?
It all depends on how your mindset is. I mean, you might have been rattled, and now you're seeing what happens when these things happen. You have a flow-on effect occasionally, and that's probably where that was. He's trying to catch up the time because Leaf's got 4 seconds on him.
Now from Leith McClymont, he'll just try and settle in now. He's got 4.5 seconds. He's got to manage that gap for 45 minutes. He can lose a tenth of a second a minute, and that is enough to get him home, but a long, long time left with lap traffic in the way. And indeed, he's actually cleared a bunch from Leith McClymont's shoes. Martin Hallinan now in P number 2, but it'll be Jeffrey followed by Jepson. And don't forget Glenn Arnott out of sequence in terms of fuel strategy. We're wondering how deep into this race he can go, and I'm wondering how much fuel he's saving. We might even take a ride on board at the 015 entry, and you can sort of talk us through the lap here, Ray, if you can. Talk to me about where you're fuel saving, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it that way.
When you're trying to go into here, you'll probably be 6th, or you might even come down to 5th, depending on how his setup is with the aero balance. But you try and just lift and coast and use the speed of the car behind for the tow, because you can back out early, lift, and you're not using the fuel, and just guide it through here, and you can just roll through the apex in a lot of cases, and then just get on the gas, and then again you're back in following the car in front, and you get the tow. So you can brake, you'll get the tow for the inertial bit, and then just brake early and just roll in gently, or just get off the gas and just roll in and have a later braking point because you're slowing up because of the aero balance. So that's how you sort of do it, and that would be a first gear or second. The first gear in his case, some people take it in second. Then you come up into Siberia, hanging out as far as possible because you want to come late on the apex to get the drive off.
And from what I'm hearing from Glenn Arnott, there's not a huge deal of fuel saving, so the only way he'd be even doing all that much, it'd all be fuel map within the car. So settings that are available to the drivers, ladies and gents, they've got a fair few fuel modes. I think the BMW's got something like 11 different fuel modes available to them.
Yeah, just don't use 11 because it is slow.
It is safety car map, yeah.
Yeah, and you really want to be probably map 3 is the lowest you want to go down because the horsepower loss. But you can use that map to, if you're at the right point and you've got somebody that's at the right speed in front of you, you can just use map 3 and just sit in their tow and you're gaining it all back.
Now, there was a recent update as well because we are in week 13 of the iRacing official season, so it is patch week. There's been a lot of work, a lot of stuff done behind the scenes. Clutch-based fuel saving has been disabled effectively. So that means there is no clutching. Just stick the clutch in and allow the car to coast on up to the corner. It's now lift and coast. There is no just using the clutch, right in the clutch, all the way to the corner. Does that change the approach to fuel saving? Does it now become more engine map based than it would have been an actual technique previously?
Well, I can tell you it's affected the Audi drivers. We can't gain the fuel save that we were to try and match with the other cars. So you basically got to switch the car off now to try and get any fuel save. You can still do it, but it's not as much as what we were gaining beforehand. So having that clutch disengagement changed is a pain from that point of view because it was the easiest way to save fuel. Now it's back into a normal real life scenario.
And critically for the race situation, that is Dan Birchnell, who did lead the race early on, now in pit lane, and that says to me, Ray, 40 minutes on the clock. That's a very, very long time. I don't think he's making it home from there.
You never know, because what are we, lap 52, and if Nick Wood could do 27 laps, which probably would have been 24 laps without the safety car, maybe 23, it could be possible.
Well, the other cars that were pitting on that same strategy coming down to the pit lane now, Ben Jeffrey, I thought that was. No, it wasn't. It was Glenn Arnott. It's into the pit lane. There was another car that came down with him to pit lane, and the other driver we're keeping an eye out for is Nick Wood. And indeed, there's another driver who's met their pit stall. It was Glenn Arnott who missed his stall. Another car into pit lane here as well. So Arnott, Nick Wood. And I wonder, is that Jimmy Middleton? It is in the bright green car. So there's Wood making his way into the pit lane.
The question is now is how many laps did Nick do to be able to get that gap, because then we can backdate it for where we're going for the next 40 minutes. So they're tight. They could probably do it in 2.
Well, we'll see if they can make it home from here. It's a very, very long way to go. But stranger things have happened. So we'll keep our eyes up further and see what happens.
So it looks like Martin has broken the back of Ben Jeffries, but they're slowly pulling back in Leaf. He's pulled a second in the last lap and a bit.
We'll see how this one continues. Well, this has really broken up the front pack now because McClimate is being caught. Hallinan has taken a fair chunk of time out of him. It's not been a clean run for a couple of these drivers up towards the pointy end of things tonight. But there's a drive from Ricky Provenzali, 41st on the grid after not setting a qualifying time, to 5th. 41st to 5th. 36 spots gained. And at this point in time, Adam Jepson stands in the way of spot number 37. Now, it's been safety car assisted here tonight, but that is an immense drive there, Ray.
It is, because he's managed to stay out of all the drama that's actually been happening, which has been an amazement in its own right, because there's been so much stuff going on.
Whoa, and he's got pace. Well, commentator's curse be applied to Ricky Provenzali at will. Ray Oliver, first night in the commentary box, applies one immediately upon encountering Ricky Provenzali, and there goes Jepson. The huge wiggle on, now the side-by-side run through the hay shed. Who's going to lift? Who's got the bravery? It's now down to the inside at Lukey Heights, and the yield from Jepson accelerates Ricky Provenzali to fourth spot at the moment, and now he's got 6.9 seconds to gain to the next car on the track. Can he make it a podium from the rear of the grid?
There's going to be a fair chance with the practice space he had during the week, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does get it up there.
Are we expecting there to be kilos applied to that Ricky Provenzali 700 machine?
Oh, I don't think you can. You'd have to apply it to all the BMWs, wouldn't you?
You would, yeah, you would. But it was a joke, Ray. That was having fun.
I know it was a joke, but I mean, you could just imagine the others going,
well, multiple drivers have now completed what they hope will be their final pit stop if they can make the journey. 36 minutes at the moment. I can tell you Glenn Arnott's saving some fuel now as well. I just heard a huge lift on the way down into Lukey Heights.
Yeah, I think that 30-minute window is going to be the window for these guys that have been sprinting at full pace. So it will be interesting to see where we go.
Jacob Hughes now makes his way through the pit lane. So he will hope that will be his final stop of the eve on lap 54. We'll see how deep he falls through the pack as well. And whoa boy! The rear tyres on that Lamborghini are not happy with that one.
I think I'm going to have to send a bucket and a spade to Jono's place this week.
Might just send him a roundabout, mate. He's been around that many times.
Is that or a vacuum cleaner or a how to drive dummies book?
Oh, the banter of the team. It's important on these longer races because it keeps you focused. Is there any rituals? Does anyone have anything that helps keep them focused over with your boys?
No, not really. It's just everybody knows everyone's going to give each other hell, and everybody genuinely knows that we're just doing it to keep the banter alive and keep everybody happy. So, and that's what keeps our core group together, is the fun and laughter we actually have. Well,
speaking of fun and laughter, Rukuistra has found his luggage containment hatch. It's been reattached to the front end of that McLaren. It's been a great night from the Formula Racing Group entry of Rukuistra. It's tricky though in that McLaren. It doesn't behave the same way as a lot of the other cars do.
Well, it's sort of got the same issues as the other cars that have got the mid to rear, but there is a few other little quirks with it from being such an older build. So you sort of, all over.
Whoa!
The
that is going to change things on cold tyres, perhaps? Or is there something more at play there for Leith McClimate, because he's currently out and in the weeds, and that means Martin Hallinan is your new race leader. And where has that happened? So this is the run out of Siberia. And there he is.
Wow.
He's got a long way off track to be out there from Leith McClimate.
think the style points is going to be about an 8 for that.
He looks dizzy. I'm not going to lie, he looks dizzy. Do you reckon that looks like a VR driver if ever I've seen it?
He's actually landed that on 4 wheels because that should have been on its lid.
Well, not surprisingly, he's coming down the pit lane, and now chaos at turn number 1 for Matt Norris.
And Jesse, is it? Oh, it's Chris Pallett.
It was Chris Pallett that got involved in that one, and unfortunately for Chris Pallett, after running quite well, round she goes, and she gets a nudge in the rear from, there was a BMW involved in that one. He's going to start falling through the timesheets.
He has lost that very early because he was on the curb sideways before basically the tipping point, so that's really gone big time on him, and old mate behind just had nowhere to go.
And he continues to be down off the track on the inside at the moment. That's down at turn number 3, the kink. Oh, he's still in the grass. He's still in the grass. This is going to be a wild ride for Chris Pallett. And he's going to call it quits right there. My word. And good night, sweet prince for Chris Pallett. He was on for such a good drive there tonight.
He's doing really well with the Audi because his fuel numbers were actually, he's hitting some good numbers there, so he was on for good pace. Now we just really got Brandon up there to keep the Frog League delays going.
Yeah, I don't celebrate any time a Frog League car's off the road. Yes! Yes! I mean, no, I don't celebrate. I don't enjoy that at all. No, he was doing quite well. Chris had a great round at Imola as well. It was a fight to the flag, unfortunately for Chris. But not going his way at the moment. Now we see the fight between Adrian Gretsch, Jackson Pringle, and Cam Edwards. And Gretsch and Pringle have history, remember, already tonight. So be interested to see how these drivers carry on with things. Pringle's already had to serve a penalty through the pit lane. But he grabs himself a spot away for now. Jonathan Kiley's off the road again in the background. He's really struggling there tonight. How do you pick a driver up after that sort of a performance from Jono? Is he going to be flat? He's going to be a little bit deflated later on tonight?
Oh, he'll be deflated, but it's a case of we all have those days, and everybody gets behind each other, and you know when you've been on a wild ride and just had a crap one, but it's just, yeah, everybody gets behind each other and just says, come on, next race, let's get it on.
Keep your eyes forward. Always keep looking as far down the road as you possibly can as a race driver. Here comes Gretsch on Pringle. Went to the outside. Another car off the road there as well. I think it was a lapped car yet again. And they managed to rejoin. How's the drive from Mark Foster as well? It was 225 off the road at this point in time. So multiple drivers struggling at this point in time. And have a look at the amount of cars thundering down the main straight at the moment. If you just tuned in with 30 minutes to go, Martin Hallinan leads by the tune of 4 seconds over Ben Jeffrey. Ricky Provenzali into third spot and starting to close that gap to Ben Jeffrey. Although the final pit stops loom for the bulk of the top 10 at this point in time. So far, have you picked a driver that's potentially got a shot to win this thing here tonight? You reckon it may be in Martin Hallinan's shoes now?
Well, it's interesting when you look at the top 6, there's a few people that have dropped through to spins, but they're coming back through, like Brendan Grosh and Trent Allen. And that's interesting to see that they are closing the time back down to the leaders.
And Jackson Pringle just makes a mistake trying to defend that one from Gretsch. And now around the outside, Dean Reddit's having a phenomenal drive so far here tonight as well. He'll tag himself onto the tail end of this battle pack. But settled down inside the top 10. It's just this battle pack on screen that we're really looking at. Cameron Edwards getting by lap traffic with Gretsch in underneath his rear wing.
Cam's
Good
definitely
job.
got the elbows out and doing the right things. He's not blocking, he's just sitting on the right line and keeping the boys at bay.
And now the pit stops will start from Daniel Magri and Jackson Pringle. Don't hate it from Pringle. Needed to get out of that battle pack. Needed some fresh air. And here comes Rukuistra as well. So pit lane's going to become busy.
Question is, who rolls the dice and grabs tires and who doesn't?
We're not going to improve on your stop time, ladies and gentlemen at home. Fuel and tires happen in the GT3 class at the same time. Hallinan will continue as he comes around at turn number 11 at this point in time. I think he'll continue at least one more lap. And does so, as does Ben Jeffrey immediately in behind him, and Ricky Provenzali as well now rounds the final corner. And there's Rukuistra, so he will rejoin. One lap down at this point in time. Fresh rubber underneath him. Leaders will part way with the track in the near future for their final service. And critically, does Nick Wood and Glenn Arnott make it home from where they are? Numbers say they will be just shy. But you've got to roll the dice sometimes. When you're not sitting pretty in terms of traffic, you've got to try and change your situation. Pit strategy is one of the things you can do. Not a bad call from Arnott, Birchnell, and Nick Wood as well. You've got to have a crack at something, and have a crack they did.
Well, if you haven't got the outright pace, you've got to try and find another way to get there, and sometimes that's the way you just got to do it.
Unfortunately, tonight it's not been the right thing. Oh, here we go. Martin Hallinan, race leader, has been impacted, and now he's off the road as well. And this is on the exit of Siberia. It's another car, same spot. Same spot. This has been where all the drama has been happening here tonight. The exit of Siberia.
It's like no one wants to win this one tonight.
Yeah, they're all throwing it away. Ben Jeffrey will now re-inherit the lead of the race. My word. Thank God they were digital marshals. They would have been ducking and covering a la Chaz Mostert at the mountain. And he'll immediately come in for, I believe, what is going to be a fast repair. Fresh set of tyres and maybe a change of underwear for Martin Hallinan. I have to keep an eye on where he rejoins as well, so... Adam Jepson in 12th spot at the moment. I believe the first car has finished his final stop. Maybe Glenn Arnott ahead of him. Maybe.
What's going to be interesting now is how many do this shorter fuel load, because you've got 2 or 3 laps of being covered differently, so you're going to get a time delta gain for the shorter fuel stops. So this will be interesting to see how it goes, because track position.
Hallinan will rejoin in between Glenn Arnott and Adam Jepson, so he will retain that spot. And this will be Daniel Fritz. Deep at turn 4. Just parks it up. I think he was letting a lead lap car go. Was the reason for that one? And Dean Hunt right now backing up, and Ben Jeffries has got damage as well. Oh, that was the incident that we did see on screen earlier on, so... I don't think that's new. Trent Allen will make his way through. So Ricky Provenzali will now lead with 25 minutes left here from the island. Who's going to go late? Who's going to go deep on the fuel strategy? Who's going to grab a splash late? Glenn Arnott's going to go down the inside of Dean Hunt at MG and try and get that one away. They are still battling toe-to-toe at the moment. Around turn number 11, and Glenn Arnott will come away with that one. So that's your race leader on board at the moment. Ricky Provenzali. The tune of 5 seconds over Brendan Grosh went very, very long. So least fuel most likely to add for Provenzali at this stop. He's already done all the hard work, all the fuel saving he potentially needs to. Now it wonders how much he will lift the pace, and that's a battle between Glenn Arnott, Dean Hunt, and Martin Hallinan on your screen now, with Arnott in the lead of this one, but then again, fuel question mark hanging over his head. Hallinan will have race lead at the moment of the drivers who have pit by 3 seconds to Adam Jepson, but it's very, very tight between the top few drivers. Where did Ben Jeffrey come out? Ben Jeffrey's a mile up the road, so Ben Jeffrey is 35 seconds off the race leader, so now he becomes the fuel strategy corrected leader. In behind Adrian Gretsch.
Brandon's in from second, so that's him maxed out.
Oh, hello! Adrian Gretsch off the road! Nearly cleans up Reddit! My word!
That was definitely Code Brown.
Pushing hard on cold tyres. No, hasn't been to the pit lane yet, has Gretsch. And how he barely caught a glancing blow. He will come in, I believe now. Glenn Arnott's in for a splash. So he would not make the end of the race, and he will come to the lane right now. And this is what it looked like from Dean Reddit's shoes. Waya! That moment, proudly brought to you by the Game Gear Direct logo on the side of Gretsch's car. In full prominent view. Not the view you want to be seeing though, Ray, but sometimes that's how the sponsors get their value for money.
This is true, but you can just see that Brendan Gretsch has just come out of the pits, and that delta time that I was talking about, he's right on Hallinan's tail, so he's actually made up a lot of time with having those extra 3 or 4 laps out on the track.
Well, that could also be with with Hallinan and his off-track excursion.
This is true, but it still brings him back into it. I mean, you're looking, he's only, what, 10 seconds off Jeffrey as well, so he had his off earlier, so he's actually brought it back quite well.
I can tell you 41 seconds of time from end to end, 7 seconds faster than Dean Hunt's previous pit stop, and I assume that would be a full tank from Hunt. So a fair bit of fuel saving and not quite the full splash of fuel to get home from here. How deep does Provenzali go? And here comes Dean Reddit into the lane. So a lot of our drivers now have completed their final stops. And trundling through the lane at this point in time. Some drama for Matt Gerard, I'm just hearing in the race server at this point in time. So something's happened. Something's happened somewhere on the track. I can't see a slow car anywhere at this point in time.
It looked like Dean Reddit then didn't take tyres, so I think he's rolling the tyre dice right now.
He'll have warm tyres. There'll be no time loss bringing the tyres up to speed. So this will be something happened down at turn 4. Anyway. What I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all quite close together on track. So it'll be Hallinan, Grosh, Hunt, Jepson, and I believe Trent Allen surging late in this race. 31st to 6th for Dean Hunt. He'll be happy with that drive, Ray.
He'll be stoked. He'll be absolutely stoked.
Now get out there and throw a bag of marbles under his wheels for me, yeah?
I just got to put some Pepsi and a pizza on the sidelines and you'll go for it.
So what I'm hearing is Dean Hunt will go faster if he's got a teammate ahead of him with... Oh, no, never mind.
He's stopping for the Pepsi and the pizza.
My apologies. I was thinking that Dean Hunt had completed his final stop at that point in time. Of course, proving me wrong immediately on cue.
I thought you were going to say he had some talent.
I was thoroughly impressed with how he's going tonight. It was a good little drive from Dean.
He hasn't done too bad because he's in the top 20, so he's definitely picked up some time and he's on the lead lap. Or was on the lead lap.
I believe he will be again when our... No, he's still in the lead lap, still in the lead lap. Now he's not. That is Ricky Provenzali. It just goes by. Still yet to stop. Two drivers left to make their final pit stops at this point in time. And they are the two at the head of the race. Ricky Provenzali, Alfonso Latella. Both in BMWs. That fuel on the BMW seems to go quite long at the moment here, Ray.
Well, it's what I was sort of predicting with if you can get the fuel map right, and Ricky's, by the looks of it, got the fuel map right. I mean, his last stint was 27 laps or whatever it was, so he was doing it well even with the safety car, so it's what I sort of expected.
Tell you what, 41st to first. Well, you can't say, if he does end up winning this thing, you can't say you didn't deserve it, because that'll be a mammoth effort there for Ricky Provenzali. Both the league admins, ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Provenzali, the head admins at least, Ricky Provenzali and Jimmy Middleton, they force themselves to start from the rear of the field. Why? Because they want to make sure the competition is even for everyone, and there is no benefit by being a league admin. That's why they do it. They're all here and all in the interests of fair racing. And I think for Ricky, overtaking 40 cars is, by golly gosh, a whole bunch of fun. And right on cue, he will come into the pit lane. He's got 35 seconds at the moment. Back to Ben Jeffrey. How quick is this pit stop going to be for Ricky Provenzali? Will Latella make his way to the pit lane as well? He's just passing the pit lane entry at the moment. I think he might be going... No, Latella is in as well. So both of the 700 and the 101 cars now making their way through the pit lane. Coming through turn number 11 at the moment. And now turn number 12 will be Ben Jeffrey. And Provenzali is rolling. And I believe he's about to come out back onto the track. And there goes Ben Jeffrey down past the start-finish line. On your right-hand side of your pictures, Provenzali. So it will be Ben Jeffrey just gets the job done. Will Hallinan get back out now in front of Alfonso Latella. Where is Latella going to fall down to in the running order? I believe he's rolling at the moment. But no, he's still in the box. Now gets rolling from Alfonso Latella. And only a couple of seconds separates race leader Ben Jeffrey from Ricky Provenzali. Mercedes versus BMW battle. And then it's BMWs all the way to P8. 38 seconds through the pit lane. So he's gained 3 seconds on Ben Jeffrey from pit in to pit out. As Provenzali. And now the gap is only 2.3 seconds. And he is coming in that BMW.
We've only got 15 minutes to go, so this is going to make it really tight.
It's going to be about a tenth a minute to even get there. And lap traffic is... No, that is a straight-out fight between Daniel Magri and Jackson Pringle. Gets quite close on the run down to turn number 4. And I think Provenzali didn't take tyres either. Because it didn't sound like he was having any problems rotating the car on our current lap. Have a look at the fight down here at the back end of the top 20 as well. Mark Foster, Dean Hunt. And I have a feeling that there is a graphic somewhere on that McLaren in honour of the Milkshake Man, Mark. Where's the Align Milkshake? There's a man at the back end of that one. Did you see that sticker, Ray?
Oh, yeah, yep, on the hind.
Yep. Wonder if we'll get a good shot of it. That's the one we're looking for right there. Looks like a milk delivery man. Is that what it is? Yeah, you bet it is. That's the logo. That's too old for me. I can tell you that much. Pete Baxter, I'm sure, will have something to say about that one, so I'll be busy grabbing a snip of that one. What car's been your favourite livery so far this evening, and you can't say Frog Leap Racing?
I really haven't picked up on one that's... Don't even think about it yet. It's one of those things that you've now got me on the hop. I haven't even really been thinking about it. Sometimes you get me like that.
You've had an hour and 45 minutes, mate. You can't... Although there has been some phenomenal racing.
I was gonna say, it's an hour and 45 minutes, but it's been action-packed from the start to the finish. So, I mean, it's been more worrying about that than anything else.
And we'll continue to keep our eyes on this duel because Justin Davies is just in behind these guys as well. And Adrian Gretsch, oh, that was right. Gretsch unfortunately had that incident just before his final stop. So he'll try and jump back on the tail end of these guys and make some passing later on the piece. Rue Caristra and Dean Reddit will go toe-to-toe along with Cameron Edwards. Jackson Pringle and Daniel Magri are in a battle pack, as well as Glenn Arnott, Daniel Birchnell. Leith McClimate and Nick Wood will fight this one out. Little Fonzo Latella's just ahead of those guys. And
Ricky
unfortunately,
definitely closing the gap down. It's down to 2 seconds, so this is going to get really spicy.
yeah, it's under 2 seconds now. And lap traffic appears to be working in Provenzali's favour at this point in time. Now catching Stefan Mellis. And we'll clear him. Ben Jeffrey on the back of Matt Sisole at the moment. And this is the gaps as it's been over the last few laps, as well as the comparison. Of course, lap 67, lap that Provenzali took his final stop. Took half a second out of him on the previous lap. Might be some more here from Ben Jeffrey. Or lap traffic.
Ricky's going to get him right into turn 1 here, so hopefully the traffic gets out of the way, which it does, which is good.
And now I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is not much traffic at all in front of these guys. They should have an out-and-out duel to the end of the race. There is one car about 7 seconds ahead of our race leader, Ben Jeffrey, at the moment, and that will be Matt Norris. Other than that, next car is about 20 seconds up ahead. So very unlikely that these guys will catch it before the end of the race. So now it's important that Ben Jeffrey gets the eyes forward. 15 minutes left of a race. Car behavior is starting to change. All of that rubber, all of those marbles has been laid down now, Ray. And you've got to lay it all on the line to try and win this thing. What's going through Ricky Provenzali's head at this point in time?
He's going to keep pushing and doing what he's doing because he's been reeling it in all the way through. It's just now he's going to be thinking, have I got enough time to do it? So it just depends on what Ben's got in the locker up his sleeve to try and get the gap and keep the gap. So it's going to be full on probably qualifying pace for right now.
And then from Ben Jeffries, he's got a lot to defend, but it's about gap management. It's not maybe you're not targeting winning by 2 seconds. You only need to win by 1,000th of a second to be clear, and sometimes not even that, to take home the top honours. Justin Davies having trouble. Porsche swapped ends a few times there.
He's lucky that wasn't bigger than it was, to be honest. He actually did well to keep it as square as possible.
I can tell you, Provenzali took 1/10 of a second out of Ben Jeffrey on the last lap. So he is coming, but that will not be enough for Provenzali to catch Ben Jeffrey.
It's now going to be more psychological because if he gets too close to Ben, Ben could make the mistakes because Ben starts pushing too hard, and then Provenzali can close it down even more. So it's going to be a psychological run to the end.
Late afternoon, as well as that sun starts to set over the track. The glare could be an issue late on in this race, but that gap is continuing to close between Jeffrey and Provenzali. Leith McClimate's going to try and get down the inside of Nick Wood. Gets the job done for the 317. Led this race in between pit stop number 2 and 3 for Leith McClimate. Was clean drives. He's made one mistake all night long. And that's the difference, unfortunately, tonight between leading this race and P8 at the moment. He's still got the opportunity to catch and pass Alfonso Latella before this one's out, but that's as far as he may theoretically climb from Leith McClimate, barring any troubles up ahead. 0.2 of a second now, this time by 2.5 of a second for Provenzali. So he is coming at Ben Jeffrey. Although we are running out of time with 10 minutes, under 10 minutes, 9 minutes left to go. Do you push harder now?
It's a catch-22. You've got to try and make sure you manage yourself. If you push too hard, you're maximising it out, you're out. And if you're Ricky, you're probably going to be pushing to the max because if you make a small mistake, you've got 12 seconds to the guy behind, so you've got a room to do it. as long as you don't bin it. So you're probably going to be maximum attack in second, and you're just trying to guide it in first.
I tell you what, that gap is now under 1.5 tenths of a second as well. So Provenzali's coming at Jeffrey. Makes a lot of time up in the middle of the lap, and then the Mercedes quite quick along the straights. 2 tenths of a second in sector number 2 there for Provenzali this lap. So he's starting to come at him. 8.5 minutes left to go now. If you can grab that draft, is he a shot? I mean, it becomes easier when he's starting to get a bit of a toe down the straights here, Ray.
Well, I was going to be able to set him up because it looks like he's got the drive off the corners. So if he can get into the draft and get the run down into, say, Miller, he can then probably get the run out and then get the pass through from Siberia up to Lucky Heights, which will be risky, but that's where he's making the time.
And they clear the last of the lap traffic before the end of the race at this point in time. Takes 3 tenths of a second out of him that lap. As Ricky Provenzali, fastest car on the track and has been for an extended period of time. And this is the battle between Birchnell, Glenn Arnott, and Nick Wood, all 20-foot racing cars as well. And another one in behind these guys as well. Deep from the 35, still pulls it up, still gets the job done. Bravery under brakes. Jeffrey's ailing. Jeffrey's in big trouble.
It looked like the rear was stepping around a bit earlier, so I wouldn't be surprised if he might have overstretched the tyre carcass for a bit there and got some heat into it. So if Ricky's been looking after the rubber without causing any issue, then he will get the pace and keep the pace.
Theoretically, if Ricky Provenzali took tyres at our stop, he will have fresher rubber. Theoretically. Although neither of these guys, I would say, would have taken tyres at that last stop.
I wouldn't have thought Ricky would because it was only 15 minutes regularly to go, so you wouldn't have risked it. Well,
Not enough time to bring the tyres up.
Well, you would have lost more time getting the tyre change done than the actual fuel put in, so you would have actually lost more time than gained.
And continues to come at him. Loses a fraction of time that lap, Ricky Provenzali. So still coming at Ben Jeffrey. And Jepson and Grosh will fight it out now for P4 as well. So they've closed on each other. And Magri and Pringle will still continue fighting to the tail end of this race as Dean Hunt, Mark Foster as well. Just about the only cars on track locked in a battle at this point in time. Fuel starts to burn out of these cars. They get light in the rear. Car off the road yet again. Here's Sisole. Ben Jeffrey's starting to find something though. So all those little mistakes in the first sector for Ben Jeffrey starting to flow back. He's settled himself back in. So might have just been a mistake or two. We've got Ricky in with a shot. This is the view from Grosh. I can tell you right now, his eyes will be just about plastered to that rear view mirror. Because that's the gap between himself and Jepson for P4. And as we hit 5 minutes left on the clock, what's that, 3-4 laps maximum distance left to go?
Yeah, it's about a minute 27 per lap. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here because it looks like Adam definitely got better braking capabilities over Brendan.
So I think at this rate, we're actually going to get 4 laps in to the end of the race at this point in time, which will put us to lap 79, I think, will be our final lap. And here it goes, side by side on the run through the kink. And now braking, a little bit out of control there for Jepson, and runs it wide, and that one will come back the way of Brendan Grosh. Still manages to hang on to the car. Bit of door banging, a little bit of unsteadiness. Whoa. Wonder whether or not he drifted. There was a touch there.
Was it a touch or was it a net code? It was one of those oddball ones. It shouldn't have. There was enough room there, so it could have just been a little bit of net code.
And update from the battle for the lead. Provenzali should have a huge moment. And he'll drop about a second back from Ben Jeffrey. So that will just about sign seal and deliver that one. This is the run through turn number 11 as he builds the throttle here. Yeah, big moment, big correction, and a lot of momentum lost. Threw everything at it.
I'd say that's the lack of rubber on the rear if you didn't take tyres in the last stop, so that was the risk that you're going to take for it.
And Jepson's going to call the incident between himself and Grosjean. So he wants obviously to have something to have a look at about that big moment we had. And now they get side by side on the run through the southern loop yet again. And Jepson gets the nose ahead. Has Grosh got anything to respond with? He'll drop back into the toe, brakes quite early. Jepson in deep, manages to pull it up and come away with P4. So this is the replay from outside that'll tell the most story. And that looks like Jepson went a long way across.
Or if I was in Brandon's shoes, I would have thought that Jepson would have been on the white line, which is probably what he was thinking. So it's one of those things where you do occasionally go a bit to the right because you're trying to carry your line for the next corner, but sometimes trajectory and you do hit each other.
It's one of those tricky ones. How do you spot in the blind spot? Because that was 100% the blind spot. Speaking of cars that are dueling it out, this is between Reddit and Quistra. Reddit's going to get down the inside, take that spot back away from the 252 McLaren. And 14th continues to belong to Reddit. He's got in his way Park Mars Foster as well in the closing stages of this one. 2 minutes on the clock. So we will have 2 more laps left to run. And I wonder whether or not Rue's got a little bit of pace in these last few moments of the race. Send it down the inside. Here we go. Late braking opportunity. Reddit hangs on to it just. It's about setting yourself now, Ray, isn't it? Set that move up. Don't just send it everywhere. You'll lose the momentum.
Well, it's just picking your spot and picking your time. And if you haven't got that chance where you know you've got the outright advantage on somebody, you sort of got to try and make it. And I think that's what Rue's trying to do now. He's trying to pressure to make sure that Dean makes a mistake and then he can gain from it. But he's sort of stitching himself up more than he's actually stitching up Dean.
And that is race leader, who has now picked up the white flag as he makes his way down the start-finish straight. One more lap left to run for Ben Jeffrey. A huge moment again for Ricky Provenzali in the final sector. And now here comes Rue Quistra. And deep from Reddit trying to defend that one. 1.5 laps left to go for these guys. Remember, they haven't received the 1-lap signal. On the run through Siberia now, looking for a run. Reddit runs wide. Quistra comes away with it. Here comes Mark Foster, as he gets his way by as well. And Dean Hunt's there and in the picture. Reddit drops a tyre off and loses 3 spots as they crest the hill. Dive their way down into MG. 1 more lap left to run after 2 more corners. And have a look at the fight in behind these guys. Birchnell gets down the inside of Adrian Gresh. And I believe that's not Justin Davies. That was the lap car in and amongst those guys. But the run to home for Ben Jeffries, it's been a chaotic night. He's had pace at times in the early stint. It was a charge back through the field when chaos struck. And now the run from the final corner down the main straight at Phillip Island. Ben Jeffrey lights it up and sets his name in the winner's circle. He wins the 2-hour event from Phillip Island. 80 laps in the book. Provenzali will get home for P2. And what about the fuel strategy, the racing from Martin Hallinan? Had it under control at one stage. The moment out of Siberia, he'll be regretting that one, but still manages to claim 3rd. Jepson had mistakes there as well. Grosh will duel with Trent Allen to the line. 2.5 tenths in that one. Alfonso Latella was the other driver that was going long in terms of fuel. And how about the battle for Magri and Pringle to the line? And Pringle will try and get his way through. Won't be tonight from the driver of the 11. Nick Wood will round out your top 10 as well from Glenn Arnott, just ahead of him. Leaf McClimate gets back to 8th spot. And then you've got this huge battle pack. And these will be the last cars across the start-finish line as well. This is the battle on between Daniel Birchnell and Dean Reddit. He's going to run out of time, I think, from Birchnell. Huge deal of speed as he tries to go around the outside. Reddit will cover him off. He's going to dip back to the left. The duel to the line. And Reddit will come out on top in that one.
0.064. Wow.
Just about Formula Vs are the only things that will finish closer than that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it. So it'll be Ben Jeffrey that'll win tonight's race. Ricky Provenzali's out there for fun. And he just said, get me out of the standings. I want to be disqualified from those standings so it won't be discarded. So Martin Hallinan will be moved his way up into P number 2. And Adam Jepson will finish in 3rd. Brandon Grosh, Trent Allen, Alfonso Latella, Leith McClimate, Glenn Arnott, Nick Wood, and Daniel Magri after the disqualification will round out the top 10. My word, what a race, Ray. How was the enjoyment from the commentary booth here tonight?
Yeah, it was different. I must admit I was a little bit more nervous than I was on the grid lately, but it's one of those things that I didn't expect to be doing tonight. But it's good. It's good to be part, and it's good to actually watch it from a different perspective tonight. And seeing the way the racing was playing out was interesting. There's a few people that'll be kicking themselves because of the mistakes that they've made, which were very small, but they've cost them rather largely. But they'll pick that up and come back in the next race meeting.
Whose drive did you probably enjoy the most? Obviously, it was exciting up and down the field because there was mistakes, a little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit center. But some rides were more interesting than others.
Well, there's a few of the guys that went off when they were leading, and they've come back through, and they still had the pace, which was good, and they didn't give up. It wasn't a case of like, I've crashed down, I'm just going to tonker around slowly. They're still up in the top 6 or 7. So seeing Halen and all those boys coming back through and Leaf is good to see, because they're not going to give up, and that's what you want to see.
I'm just having a look at it. It's also going to be teammates on the podium here tonight as well in 1st and 3rd. Same as what we had last time out as well at Imola. Yeah, except for that was Riot Sim Racing. This time it's actually going to be the Area 51 drivers of Ben Jeffrey and Adam Jepson sharing podium honours for their teams. And we'll start off, I think, with our 3rd place finisher. 4th on the track will be Adam Jepson. Adam, Ray and Scott up here in the broadcast booth, mate. How do you feel? You've been elevated to P3 at the end there of the race after Ricky steps aside and said, I've had a blast, boys, but I'm going to step aside. Interesting race from go to woe. Managed to cut a pit stop out just by having that pit there under the safety car. Are you there, Adam? Yeah, there you go.
Here,
Yep.
sorry. Yeah, that was pretty cool having that safety car. That really helped out, that we could just stop that short fill and pretty much focus on 2 full stops to the end. So yeah, worked out quite nicely.
In terms of the overall race strategy, that sort of shuffles things up, cycles things around just a little bit. Was it, just watch things, manage the restart, make sure you set yourself off and go again?
Yeah, pretty much. Like once we got into pits, you didn't have to do tires for that stop. So once you're getting out there, it's kind of just getting race brain back into gear, holding stations, and that middle stint should have been nice and cruisy. A couple of little dramas that come in your way as they do, but otherwise, yeah, it's just ticking over those laps in a little bit, and it should have been nice and simple for now.
In terms of things, BMWs seem to be the stronger car here tonight. Obviously, a little bit of change in the way the aerodynamics on the cars have worked this week. Was there many changes or tweaks in the setup that were required late on into the piece here?
A couple. I found it probably more Porsche-fied, my BMW, which was quite nice for me. A bit more front end compared to what it was used to. So for me, it was just a couple little tweaks with the roll bars, and I probably did more what I was after the BMW to do. So it sort of played into my hands that I was never a qualifying guy, but my race pace was always going to be low to mid 27s, and I felt that would probably be pretty close to on the pace. Turns out it wasn't far off. So yeah, I think the changes that they made in iRacing definitely helped us out a little bit in this car.
In terms of things, you mentioned obviously the race pace. What was the tire wear across the entirety of the stint like? Because we did see a few drivers sort of start to fade late on the piece. Few drivers have troubles with the rear end starting to get a little bit fired up and coming around. And we saw Ricky obviously late in the piece have a lot of trouble with maintaining rear grip in his BMW.
I actually found for me it was pretty good. I was talking to a couple of boys in the team who were running the Mercs at the time, and for me, they were down into 30%, where I was only just under 50% for that first actual tyre swap. So that was a stint and a half after the safety car. I felt my car actually came on better in rear grip towards the end of the stint and was probably a little less taxing on the tyres early on. So for me, I was a little bit slower start of stint, but really came good towards the end, and that's where my quicker times were heading. So yeah, the setup I was using was pretty kindish on the rear tyres, even though I still had that good point and drive, which was nice.
Now, in terms of things, the next round we'll be heading our way off onto Long Beach. Completely different to what we've seen so far. So obviously we've seen two very distinct styles of track, lots of sort of changes of direction. At Imola, you've got to have the ability to stop quickly, point and shoot. Phillip on, a lot of flowing, a lot of long corners. Now we head to a street circuit. Has the approach changed a little bit for the next round on the 9th of April?
Probably a little bit, soften the car up. That's always going to help. For me, I don't really like flowing circuits, so it's nice that I actually finished well today. Normally, I end up in a fence out of turn one or something stupid like that. So, having said that, I'll definitely be in the wall after lap 1 or 2 next week, next round, that's for sure. But yeah, I think going that race is definitely going to be, we have to get qualifying up front because it's sort of a pack grid in a very tight entrance into turn 1, 2, 3s, and there'll probably be a fair bit of carnage, I dare say. So I think a bit more focus on qualifying pace for myself will be what I'll be after.
And finally, mate, congratulations on the third place finish. Who are the sponsors that make it possible for you?
Well, here for the corporate IT team, with Dubby helping us along the way. The boys down at 24/7 Sim are always helpful. And the Racing with Autism, they're a good bunch of guys. You can go and check them out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Jepson will finish out of third place here tonight in the 525. Ignore that fourth place on the screen. And congratulations tonight, mate.
Thank you.
Moving along one step further up the podium, Ray, you've done one interview already tonight. I'll give you Mr. Martin Hallinan.
Martin, how did you find that tonight, especially with your little moment earlier?
Well, yeah, that was interesting. It was an interesting race from where to go. Yeah, I should have been sort of cruising there once the race got handed to me, but then of course I made probably the same mistake that other people did. Touched a curb, and that was the end of it. But yeah, that was so much fun. There was some awesome racing there with Adam at the start. It was unreal, and Brandon.
It definitely did seem like it was a good close fight and duel, and everybody was keeping it pretty clean. And you weren't the only one tonight to drop it on the exit of Siberia. There was quite a few people that did it. It's just you sort of came off a little worse than a few of the others. But it seemed like you were on the strategy and on point for the whole night.
Yeah, everything went sort of according to plan, apart from touching that ripple strip there. I thought I was going to roll it.
Yeah, one of the other boys actually did flip it and end up on all four wheels. So you were the one that actually got better off on that front because Leaf went up and over. So yeah, he managed to do that where you didn't. But it's good to see you came back and fought back through from where you were. What are you reckoning about Long Beach for next week or next week?
I hate street courses, but yeah, Long Beach is Long Beach. Yeah, it'll be all right. I'll keep telling myself that. And I think if I can race a V8 around there, I can probably race something with more traction. I hope.
It's all about patience around that place. Don't try and dive in on anybody. It's just wait till it appears, not attack anybody, because it is one of those places where you want to just dodge it. But is there
Yeah,
any
I think
sponsors or anything you would like to thank tonight?
Yeah, I'd love to thank my crew chief, Brad Fenley, for always joining me on these races and keeping me calm and everything, and doing my strategy and my fuel and everything. And yeah, my team, Just a Key Racing, and shout out to my company, Lambert's Fine Foods. And if anyone's in Tasmania, look me up for some hummus. And I'd like to say a big thanks to all the organisers, Premier Endurance League, Ricky and Jimmy. It's been awesome.
I was going to say hummus, man. I've been digging some hummus lately, so it's a little disappointing I can't actually get that ordered.
Oh, it's a bummer. It's a cold product, so we only sell it locally.
Yeah,
We're
you'd
only
have to.
a micro business.
Yeah,
But
there's
hook me
nothing
up
else
when
you
you're in
do.
Tassie.
Will do, Mr. Martin Hallinan. Thank you very much for tonight's racing, mate. Congratulations on P2.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
And finally, one final step we get to take further up the podium standings. It's going to be to talk to Ben Jeffrey. Mate, a little bit of an up and down race. There was a few moments throughout the journey there, and did you think you'd thrown that one away?
Potentially. Once we had that first safety car and I pitted for fuel, I sort of put myself out of sync with some of the other guys. So it was a bit touch and go there. Even in the end, I didn't know if I was winning.
In races like that, it's so tricky, so difficult to read it, and then obviously mistakes that happen, contacts made between yourself and other cars. You've got to reset. You've got to get yourself back going because it's a long race. It's 2 hours is the journey. What do you do that keeps you motivated? What do you do that keeps you looking at that next apex? Is there any specific approach or anything that's different for you towards the other drivers?
Not really, to be honest. I think it's a 2-hour sprint session, to be honest. So it's kind of like maybe it even resets your brain having a bit of an incident, so gets you focused a bit more.
In terms of things tonight, what was the difference between the Mercedes? Because you were one of the only ones that was able to make the car go quite well over the long run. You were chased down by a whole horde of Big Bertha BMWs, but for some reason, your Mercedes was hanging onto its tyre a lot better.
Yeah, potentially not. So after the first hour and I pitted, I was down to 32% on the right front, and it wasn't real good to drive. But I set it up to run with a few clicks less wing in the chance I needed to overtake, I'd still be able to. So maybe that played a factor. Not sure.
Next time out, we're heading to the Tight and Twisty street circuits of Long Beach. Now, safe, softer setups have been the key in terms of street circuits and the way that those work. Chaos is going to be important. How much of practice are you going to be putting into the qualifying lap? Because I think that's going to be one of the most important things about next week. 2-hour race, but maybe that first 15 minutes before the race is far more important.
Yeah, definitely. It's, to be honest, not one of my favourite tracks, so I'm going to have to do a bit of practice, I think. But yeah, definitely want to be out in front of some of the stuff happening behind you.
And finally, mate, your floor is all yours to thank the sponsors that make it possible for the driver of the 150.
Yeah, no problem. So shout out to the Area 51 Sim Sports guys, Corp IT, Dubby, Racing with Autism. Good bunch of guys.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's race winner from the Premier Endurance Series, the Gamer Gear Direct from Phillip Island, 2 hours. Ben Jeffrey, congratulations, mate. Go and celebrate with the team.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Ray, it was a 2-hour sprint session, was how Ben Jeffrey called it. Would you agree that it was just about the same?
I would definitely have to agree with that being the adage, because there wasn't many people falling back and having to look after tyres. It was just balls to the wall, and I think that's why we were seeing the accidents that we were seeing, because everybody was pushing to that last little bit of the edge.
Advice to the drivers next time out. I think probably what's going to be the toughest circuit on the calendar with Long Beach. We do have the Nürburgring GP circuit following that on May the 7th, and then June 4th will be Bathurst. But I would say the drivers here, particularly being in the Australian League, going to be more suited, more comfortable at the mountain compared to Long Beach.
Long Beach is going to be a case of patience, and more patience, because you're going to get caught out regardless. Somebody's going to have an issue at the hairpin or in the turn 1 and the fountain. So it's just picking your times and picking them wisely.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say a big shout out to all our sponsors that make it possible. If you need to get somebody to give you some coaching services within iRacing, consider Virtual Motorsport Mentor. They are the guys that get you going, so don't be afraid to reach out to the team there. If you think you need a few extra laps, perhaps they can help you with the setup, potentially, for the next round of the Premier Endurance Racing League from Long Beach. Also, if you're looking to get yourself a new steering wheel, a new set of pedals, a new rig, perhaps even some new monitors, consider Gamer Gear Direct, the proud partner of the Premier Endurance Racing Championship. For everything that'll get you out in the virtual world of racing, it's Gamer Gear Direct. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been 24/7 Sim Services proudly presenting to you the Gamer Gear Direct Premier Endurance Racing Championship. This has been the 2 hours of Phillip Island. We'll see you next time out in April for the next round at Long Beach. See you then.